I've grew up in what was probably the most normal of normal households. Parents worked a lot, but still managed to care for me and my 3 older sisters. We were never super close as a family, but never had any issues either. Same goes for my extended family. They always lived a few hours away, but we saw each other during summer holidays or Christmas and always got along great. But when we got older, we naturally grew apart as everyone had their own lives. I'm 31 now. In 2014, when I was 22 and attending uni, I got a phone call from my mother that turned my life upside down. I remember I didn't even answer at first because I was gaming with friends, but she called again immediately after the first call. This was an unwritten rule in the family. If you call twice like that, it's important. Like someone died important. So when she called again, I excused myself and answered, only to hear chaos in the other end, like people were arguing. But when my mom realized I had answered, it sounded like she went to another room and closed the door. I just asked what was going on and I heard she was crying. My memory of this conversation is a bit blurry, but she basically asked me if I had something to confess to regarding Eve. Eve is my cousin on my mom's side and is 7 years younger than me, 15 at the time. At that point, I hadn't even seen Eve for several years. I just said no and asked what this is about. She just cried even harder and started accusing me of sexually assaulting Eve back when we were children. That Eve had told everything to my sister, and that my sister told my mother and my aunt. Eve had told them that back when she was 9 and I 16. She'd been playing in my room when I came in and started feeling her under her clothes and kissing her. My mother screamed at me to say something, but I couldn't even speak. It was all so absurd. I remember thinking that must be some bad joke. The last thing I remember saying was that it's not true and that he is lying. But then my mom goes on saying that how Eve gave such a detailed description of where and how. Then she kept asking something like, "Did you do this? Did you do this?" And I just screamed back at her no, each time. It all ended with my mom putting me on speaker and both my mom and dad saying that they don't want anything to do with me and never to contact them again. 2 of my sisters texted me later that day, pretty much saying that I'm disgusting and then blocked me. I know it's weird, but after that call I went to have a long shower. To this day, I still don't know why I did that. After calming down, I started calling and texting everyone, even Eve. No one answered, and the ones who hadn't blocked my number by then quickly did so. The only thing I heard back was from my father, who texted me to stop contacting them and that they need to heal. That was 9 years ago, and I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since that day. To say this ked me up is an understatement. I was living in a haze for weeks after that, and hardly ate at all. It didn't help that this was right before I was supposed to defend my bachelor's thesis and was already stressed out. Luckily, my co-writer sensed something was up and saved me by controlling the conversation so that I got the easy parts. Without him, I'm sure I would have failed. Needless to say, no one came to my graduation. Then started the worst period of my life. I spent the first year expecting the cops to knock on my door and arresting me for sexual abuse. I didn't land any jobs, just living off my saved money. I drank a lot and did oxy. I also grew resentful and violent. The only reason I didn't hurt anyone is because no one was around. My neighbor called the cops on me once after I had smashed a glass, but I managed to convince the officers that I had just dropped it, and they went away since there were no others inside my apartment. Instead of sleeping, I spent my nights planning how I could hurt Eve and make sure no one ever found out. Even thinking how I could actually do the things she'd accused me of, but much worse. I know, I'm not proud of that. I landed my first real job in my field in late 2015. Only then did things start to improve. I focused all my time on my job as it gave me something normal to do. Recovery was a slow process, but I drank less, sober now for 4+ years, and smiled more. I lived cheap and earned good money, so I made a point of buying myself a nice gift for my birthdays, a VR headset, a motorcycle, Lego, etc. And last year I moved from my shitty apartment and bought a small house. It was an old dream of mine to have my own garage and a garden to care for. This has boosted me even more. So my life is okay now. I still got problems. I've been on antidepressants for the last few years, and while they help, it's not in a happy way. They simply remove the dark thoughts and replace them with dead ones. My trust in other people is close to non-existent. I've tried dating, but only been on 2 dates with 2 different women. It's really hard to speak like a normal person when it comes down to it. And what would I tell a potential partner when she asked about my family? Oh, you know, they accused me of a heinous crime, and we're not talking anymore. But I didn't do it, I swear. My field is very male-dominated, so the only woman I really speak to is my therapist, who I like a lot. If this text was difficult to follow, I apologize. I'm not good with words on the best of days, and I started rambling a bit when it all came back to me. It's already getting long, so I will fast forward to my current issue. A few days ago, I received a text from my mother. It felt unreal and I was scared to open it at first, so I just stared at the notification for hours before opening it. Yesterday, another text followed. Translated, they basically say, Text 1. Hi. My name. It's been so long since we talked. We miss you and want to know how you're doing. Here she writes a long text about my sisters and how my nieces and nephews are getting big. I didn't even know I was an uncle. Know that we love you and always will. Mom and Dad. Text 2. Hi. My name. We understand if you don't want to talk to us after what happened, but please listen. Last month, the subject of you was brought up at a family gathering. During this, Eve was downplaying everything that had happened to her. It got so awkward that she finally admitted that nothing happened and that she probably just dreamt it. We were all appalled by this. When we last spoke, we wanted to protect Eve and did the only thing we thought we could do. We know that's not excusing how you were treated. What Eve did was wrong and we're all angry at her. We have called everyone that knew and told them the truth. We all want to speak with you, and your sisters want you to meet their families. Please write back if you can find it in you to forgive us. Mom and Dad. So yeah, that's my situation right now. I haven't answered, but they no doubt know I've seen it. Truth be told, I'm seething. So many old, shitty memories are now stirring again. I don't want to forgive them, and I wouldn't trust myself to be in the same room as them right now. Part of me wants to call my family and unleash everything on them, to guilt them with everything I went through until they all hit their rock bottom. Then dedicate my life to make my cousin's life as miserable as possible. The other part wants to ignore them and continue with my okay-ish life with my motorcycle and my garden to keep me company. I don't have any friends. The only people I speak to are my coworkers, but we're not really close. I've called my therapist's clinic, but they told me she's on vacation and won't be available for weeks, and I don't want anyone else than her. So that leaves internet strangers. So please, where to go from here? Do I ignore them and continue as is? Or do I answer? And if so, what to even write? I'm pretty sure meeting them in person would be a bad idea for a foreseeable future, but I'm not even sure how my life can improve from picking up those old threads. As embarrassing as it may sound, I've dreamed about the day when they apologize to be them throwing themselves to the ground and kissing my feet. Texting seems so anticlimactic now. TLDR. My cousin failsly accused me of sexual assaulting her when we were minors and I was disowned. Now it has been revealed that it never happened and my family is contacting me and wants to make amends. I don't know how to respond. Edit. Holy shit. I went to bed yesterday after answering a couple of comments. I was happy then when someone just said to wait for MT therapist to come back, something that had flown over my head. Now there's 1,300 comments. I can't possibly answer all, but I'll try to read all when I get home from work. I just want to address something I saw a few people mention, that my therapist wouldn't leave for that long without telling me. I don't know how this works in other places, but this is a state-run clinic, no hourly rate or anything. I got assigned to her when first going there, which means she will continue to get me on meetings that follows. But that is not 100%. If she's on leave or sick, I might get someone else. 4 to 6 weeks of vacation is not uncommon. Edit 2. Some people have messaged me about an update video on TikTok. Please note that this is not by me. All I have written you can see on this page. Relevant comment. The top comment advises him to wait until his therapist returns. TBH, I didn't have the mindset to think that I could wait that long. I just heard weeks and thought it might as well be years. Thanks, I think I'll do that. Update post. August 23rd, 2023, 1 month and 1 week later. It's been a while since my last post, and I can't count the people asking me for an update. So I thought I'd post one, even though there's not much to say. First, I'd like to get a few things out of the way. Thanks all who wrote and offered support and advice. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to all, but know that I've read them. Also, thanks to everyone who reached out to distract me with talks about my hobbies. I know I wasn't very responsive, but I know you meant well. To the openly hostile ones, borderline threatening me to quit antidepressants and counseling and instead insert religious figure here into my life. No. Many people told me I should pursue legal action. I didn't mention this in my first post, but I decided against that long ago for a few reasons. Best case, she would get a slap on the wrist and I wouldn't gain much at all. I just don't think it's worth the legal headache. And if I somehow would end up losing, I'll owe her legal costs. A lot of people have been messaging me about the fake updates. As I wrote in an edit to my other post, there are some fake updates on TikTok and YouTube. So if you saw something on other platforms that you didn't read in the text below or in the post linked above, it wasn't by me. While I don't really care about people making fake updates, I just want everyone that read my original post that these videos are not by me. Someone even claimed they had access to my original post on r/relationships, which contained these updates. That is false. With that cleared up, I'll add what's actually going on with my life right now. Know that I wrote the original post in an anger, and because I was completely lost on what to do. I needed a kick to the head, and I got that within like the first 5 to 10 comments. That was really all I needed. I've met my therapist. I was first scheduled for September, but she managed to move it, and we've had 2 talks so far. She also read the original post and many of your comments. While she would have preferred me to confide in a colleague of hers, in the end she was glad you guys told me to calm down a bit and wait. She knows firsthand how I can get when angry. I won't go through everything we talked about, but it comes down to that I may respond to my parents at some point. But if I do, it won't be anytime soon. I've started writing everything down that I want said to my family, and then my therapist, and I will go through those things continuously. For those who asked, they haven't tried to contact me further. I will not be updating this issue anymore. Not on Reddit, including DMs, or anywhere else, in case of more fake updates. Nor will I be commenting unless it's something very important. I don't want to be rude and I appreciate all the support, but it really is draining sometimes. I was almost glad when the moderators locked the comments on the first post. I'd like to end by saying thanks again to all the people who's been wishing me well and checking up on me. And for the people writing to check that I'm still alive, don't worry. You don't have to do that. I'm off work for a while and not by the computer much. I'm busy painting my garage. My family abandoned me. 16 years later, do they want to reconcile with me? Originally, I posted this on another subreddit, but I was recommended to post it here. My intention in posting this is to vent and let off some stress. As I mentioned in the original post, the story has an ending, so to speak. Again, I apologize for any mistakes that may occur or if there are gaps in the story. If you have any doubts or questions, you can post them in the comments. I'm not sure how much will be covered in this publication, but I will try to tell as much as possible to avoid any doubt. The content of this post is intended to provide some context about what happened between me and my family so that in the next post I can go into more depth on reuniting with my family. This story actually began 25 years ago in 1998, when I was 17 years old. I am currently 42 years old. It was during this period that I first met my now ex-wife Rachel. We both lived in a small town in central Mexico. I was in high school at the time. During the first semester, I became friends with one of my classmates, Lily. Lily and I got along very well from the beginning, and as a result, we quickly formed a good friendship. One day in between our usual conversation, Lily invited me to her house to spend some time, which I agreed to. As I remember, we arrived at Lily's house, spent some time doing some schoolwork, and then started playing some video games. After a few minutes, the door of the house opened, and a few seconds later, we saw a girl very similar to Lily enter the house. It turned out that Lily had a twin sister named Rachel. After seeing her for a few minutes, a small conversation started between me, Lily, and Rachel. After a few minutes of conversation between the three of us, Rachel and I continued the conversation alone, having a good first meeting at the end. I would be lying to you if I told you that I remember everything, but by way of summary. After that first meeting, I kept in touch with Rachel. We started to spend a lot of time together. We went for walks together, and over time we both started to develop feelings for each other. We went on a few dates and finally formalized our courtship when we were both 19 years old. It is important to mention that Rachel is a person who suffers from 2 disabilities. She is blind since birth. She was diagnosed with congenital blindness, and at the age of 16 she was diagnosed with cardiac arrhythmia. This means that her heart rhythm is irregular, so there were times when her heart rate was very low. I must admit that at the beginning it was complicated to adapt to living with a disabled person. In Lily's case, she only has a slight case of myopia. By my own decision, and that of Rachel's family, I started to study medicine and take some courses and training to be someone capable of taking care of and guaranteeing Rachel's physical and mental safety. At that time I was studying accounting, but I was offered the opportunity to attend some courses in a medical center, so I accepted. Most of the training I took was to deal with Rachel's cardiac arrhythmia, but I did it all with pleasure because I loved her, and after all, one does everything to see the person one loves happy and healthy. At that time, Rachel was what they would call the perfect girl. Physically, she was beautiful and attractive. But the most remarkable thing was her personality. She was an intelligent, charismatic, empathetic, motherly, and loving person. She was truly able to endear herself to anyone she talked to, and that made her somewhat popular and loved in the small town we lived in. In 2000, our courtship began while we were both in college. Our families celebrated a lot. They were very close before, and knowing that there was a relationship between Rachel and me made them very happy. My mother and Rachel's mother were good friends, and as for my father, He enjoyed discussing work-related issues with his mother. I always had a good relationship with her family, including being best man at her older sister's wedding. Another important point is that Rishel's father passed away when she was 7 years old, but despite that he was and still is a beloved figure in her family. I thought there was nothing to worry about in terms of the family aspect at that time. My family at that time consisted of me, my parents, and my 3 younger siblings. For a better understanding, I will list my family as follows. My mother, my father, Isaac, my younger brother by 1 year, Louis, my younger brother by 3 years, Daniel, my youngest brother for 4 years. On Rishel's side of the family, I will list them as follows. Tanya, Rishel's mother, Sophia, Rishel's older sister, Lily, Rishel's twin sister, Rishel, now ex. Come 2003, Rishel and I graduated from college at the age of 22. We both decided to get married that same year. Needless to say how excited our families were to hear the news about our wedding. It was truly a very special moment for both of us. The wedding was simply perfect. From the venue, to the food, to the music. Everything we had dreamed of was present on that day. Shortly after the wedding, we moved in to start our life as a couple. Although for the first few days I noticed some restlessness in Rishel. At the time she told me she was just a little stressed about the wedding. Her restlessness didn't last more than a day. She was back to her old self very quickly. A month after the wedding, something important happened, which was Lily's disappearance in the family sphere. At that time, Lily was working in the Citibank as an accountant, being recommended by her mother for the position. Normally, we used to have drinks on Fridays after a tiring week, but one day she just didn't show up at the bar we used to go to. At first I didn't worry about it, but the following week Rishel informed me that Lily was no longer coming back. When I asked Rishel about it, she wouldn't say anything about it, so I thought I would go and check with her mother. Upon questioning Tanya about this, she told me that Lily was arrested last week, that she had betrayed her and her family, that she was a horrible person who had stolen and brought her family's reputation into question, that because of her actions many people would have their lives greatly harmed, etc. What you are reading is a portion of what Tanya told me. I would like to give more details, but the other things she said are already very personal. Finally, the last I heard about Lily was that she was sentenced to 13 years in prison that year. Her entire family refused to visit her, and I have been forbidden to have contact with her. The rejection for her was such that her own family refused to attend the trial so that they would not be associated with her, closing all communication after her sentence was passed. The next 2 years were fairly quiet. I started working as an accountant in a small company in the city, while Rishel worked as a teacher for blind people. My marriage was amazing. Obviously, we had some ups and downs, but it wasn't really something to worry about. We were always a communicative, loving, and caring couple. Rishel being disabled limited some aspects, but we still had a good relationship emotionally and physically. Although my work consumed a lot of my time, I always tried to spend at least 3 hours a day with Rishel. We had 1 date a week, and the idea of starting a family became present after a while. In 2005, I had to go on a business trip with some colleagues to close a deal that would benefit our company. The only important person in this was a former coworker named Emma. I really had no relationship with her, being our only interaction during work. After a few days, the negotiation was successful and the deal was closed. To celebrate, my coworkers decided to go to a bar. The celebration was what you would expect. Most of my coworkers ended up drunk. In my case, I did not get to that point, limiting myself to talk with some of my colleagues on various topics. After a while, I decided to go back to the hotel where we were staying. As I was leaving the place, Emma crashed into me and we both fell to the ground. Like most of my companions at that moment, I could see that she was drunk. I stood up again and tried to help Emma to get up, which was not possible because of the state she was in. One of my companions, upon seeing this, told me that it would be best to take Emma back to the hotel. I agreed, and offering one of my arms as support, I carried Emma back. I was really only planning to leave her in front of the door of her room and go, but in the end I had to carry her to her bed, where I simply lay her down, and a few seconds later I went to my room. The next day we returned to our respective homes without incident. For days after I returned from my business trip, I was on my way back from work when I noticed my parents' cars, Tanya's car, outside my house. Upon entering, I found Rishel's mother, her older sister, and my parents standing in the living room. They all looked furious. Rishel was sitting on the couch crying. She was 4 weeks pregnant at this point. Without having time to process the scene, I received a loud slap from Sophia, which was followed by several screams from those present. I questioned why everyone was acting this way, and finally Rishel spoke up, and all she said was, "Why did you do that?" I asked her what she meant by that, and quickly everyone started yelling at me and accusing me of cheating on Rishel during my business trip. I questioned them where that accusation came from, to which Tanya said that Emma approached her to say that I supposedly had an affair with her, that I supposedly had for some time an emotional affair with her that during the trip transitioned to a physical affair. Apparently, Emma was very detailed in her story that she managed to pass off her lie as true. She also mentioned that she had supposedly said very cruel things about Rishel related to her condition, among other things. I told them that Emma was lying and there wasn't something to prove what she said, but Sophia replied that they asked everyone who went on the trip with us, all agreeing that they saw me go with Emma back to the hotel alone. This point is true, but it's because no one wanted to help me take Emma back to her room. I begged Rishel to believe me, but she responded that she wanted nothing more to do with me asking for a divorce. The yelling and insults towards me continued until I was kicked out of my house. The following months were total hell. I was forced to quit my job when everyone found out what was going on. Because we lived in a small town, most people knew each other. So you get an idea of the hatred I received throughout that time, with everyone yelling insults at me, with sometimes escalating to physical assaults. My parents told me I was a disgrace to the family. My siblings disowned and insulted me. Rishel's family likewise did the same to everyone, refusing to have any kind of relationship with me. I thought of turning to those who were my friends, but I was also rejected by them. In this period of time, I must highlight the behavior of my brother Lewis, who made suspicious comments about what was happening. I later learned that he was the one who comforted Rishel during the divorce process. The divorce process lasted about a year, in which I was not allowed to have contact with Rishel at any time. All contact was through her lawyer. Finally, in 2006, the process ended with me losing almost everything due to the nature of the situation. Where I lived, adultery is considered something serious. So in addition to having to pay alimony, I had to pay financial compensation, among other things. But my lawyer got an agreement not to have to pay alimony. In the end, I had to give my house, my car, 80% of my savings, and a compensation of $160,000. Once the divorce was finalized, both my family and Rishel's family cut off all contact with me. The last I heard about them being that my brother Lewis and Rishel started a relationship. At that point, I had basically lost everything. I lost my family, my friends, my reputation, everything. No one wanted to relate to me, so it was impossible for me to get a job. I was marginalized by everyone who lived in that city. To go on with my life made no sense, so I thought about ending it all. But in the end, I didn't have the courage to do it. Finally, I decided to sell what little I had to raise some money, and I finally left that place. I moved to a city that was 6 hours away from where I lived before. My goal was to be as far away as possible, so I moved to a city in the northern part of Mexico. Finally, I arrived in another state. I didn't have much money at the time, so I took small jobs to raise some money. A few months after starting my new life, I noticed that several businesses in the area where I lived required guidance and assistance related to filing taxes and performing audits. I saw this as a new opportunity, so I began to give advice and consultations related to tax returns and the correct performance of audits. In 2007, I was able to form a small and somewhat successful consulting and economic advice company, but at that time I had serious emotional problems, being mostly confidence and self-esteem issues. Once I was able to reach economic stability again, I had the opportunity and the means to take therapy. It really helped me a lot to finally be able to deal with my emotional problems. With my therapist, I addressed several issues. My relationship with my family, my relationship with my friends, and my relationship with my ex-wife. At the time, I felt that I was somewhat to blame for what happened. Mostly, I felt like an idiot for not having suspected anything about Emma, and I also questioned why all this happened with Emma. In the end, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of the experience I lived through during the divorce, but the most serious thing was that I developed an anxiety disorder that affected me greatly when socializing with other people. At that time, I was unable to form any kind of relationship with people because of my fear of being betrayed. It was a slow process, but I managed to get through it. I understood that I was not to blame for what happened. I was able to start the healing process, and I stopped questioning Emma's motive for lying. I was physically and mentally well. I started going to the gym, developed a love for gardening and kickboxing, and focused on my work. I even started to make some friends, and after a while, I was confident enough to go out for a few drinks. The next 2 years were pretty good for me. My small company had a good growth, so money was no longer a problem. I was not a millionaire or something similar, but I earned enough to not have to worry. Emotionally, I was fine. My confidence problems were no longer so serious, and my fear of relating to other people was disappearing, although it was still somewhat present. I was able to meet my current friends who were very understanding about my situation, and I was finally able to be okay with myself. 2009 was an important year. Due to the growth that my company was having, I had to look for more personnel. Among those personnel, I was looking for accountants for the company. As I was reviewing some of the job applications, one of them stood out above the rest. The application was from a Lily. That surprised me a bit, as that reminded me of my old friend, but at the time I thought it was just a coincidence. Finally, I had the interview with the person who sent the application, and great was my surprise to see that it was really the Lily I knew. We both recognized each other instantly and remained silent. Honestly, it was something uncomfortable. Since she was my ex-wife's twin, several painful memories came back to my mind when I saw her face. After a few minutes, I continued with the interview in the most normal way I could. In the end, I must admit it was a good interview. Finally, Lily got one of the positions, and a few days later, she showed up to start working. Regardless of what happened in the past, Lily was one of the best options, so it would be stupid not to hire someone with a great experience and knowledge in the area. In addition, her job application did not mention any criminal record, so there was no problem hiring her. In the beginning, communication between Lily and I was nil, limited to work-related interactions, including her interactions with other employees. During this period, Lily just showed up to work, did her job, and went home without any contact with anyone. Lily continued this behavior for a few more months. One day, an important project came up for the company, which meant more work and therefore more hours of work. At the end of the work schedule, I used to stay overtime to advance some of the pending work. Then Lily volunteered to help with the pending work, to which I accepted. Most of those extra hours passed with both of us being in total silence, until one day Lily invited me to have a drink. Lily seemed very nervous and a bit scared when I made the proposal. At first, I had no intention of accepting her invitation, but at that moment, I was very stressed, so a drink would not go amiss. Actually, the little outing was not very remarkable, but overall it was quite nice to spend time with her. We talked about work-related issues. After a while, Lily started to gain more confidence, so we got closer little by little until we started to form a formal friendship again, which grew over time. After work was over, we would sometimes spend time talking. We would share our lunch break, and on Fridays we would go for a few drinks like in the old days. On one of our outings to the bar, I decided to be open with her and tell her everything that happened with me and Rishal. Lily had previously asked about how Rishal was doing, to which I just said that we got divorced without talking about why. I told her what happened with Emma and how everything went during the divorce proceedings. At that moment, Lily was surprised by everything that had happened, to which I asked her if a lie was really enough for our families to cut off contact with me. I replied that I did not know all the details, so I did not know if there was something else that led them to take that position. For her part, Lily was very upset and asked if one lie was enough to overshadow the years I spent with our families. Finally, she said she would be there for me if I needed to talk again. Up to that point, I had only talked in depth about my divorce issue with my therapist, so letting it all out took a huge weight off my back. Overall, Lily was a great addition to the company, managing to stand out and rise quickly within the company despite her time in prison. But despite this, something was not right with her. I noticed how Lily's problems working as part of a team or with other employees were still present. So on one of our drinks outings, I asked her if everything was okay. When I asked the question, Lily seemed nervous and scared. So I apologized for asking the question, but I told her the same thing she told me when I told her about my divorce. I told her that if she needed to talk to someone, she could count on me. The next few days went by as normal, until on one of our outings to the bar, Lily finally decided to open up to me. She told me about what happened in the past and why she was arrested. In a somewhat summarized and simplified way, Lily worked at the bank in the city where we both lived before. She explained to me that her duties at the bank were to perform the annual startup of the accounting system, in addition to working on budget allocations, budget items, projects, etc. Because Lily proved to be a very efficient and capable element, the people in charge of the bank assigned her to a position where she had access to a large database containing all the information about the clients and people who had an account in the bank to perform her duties in a better way. In addition to Lily, there was also another guy who had the same duties as her. He said that one day the administration was bombarded by complaints from angry people who reported that their savings accounts were zero or that they had no money in their bank accounts at all. After a few hours, the bank's administration realized that the bank accounts of several people were indeed being emptied. After a few hours, and since there was nothing that could solve the problem, they were forced to restrict access to all associated accounts, resulting in what we know in Mexico as a corralito. This means that for a few days no one could enter or withdraw money from their accounts, which was very problematic. When investigating what happened, the cause of the problem was found. It turned out that a criminal group, it is most likely that these people were members of some cartel of the time, but this was not made clear, had access to the information stored in the database. By information I mean card numbers, passwords, etc. So that having this information, they dedicated themselves to emptying several bank or savings accounts. The bank managed to recover some of the stolen money, but some of it could not be recovered. Most of those involved were arrested 2 days after the event, but others managed to escape. Lily was taken into custody while the investigation was ongoing. The people who had access to the database were investigated, leaving Lily and her coworker as the only suspects. but the latter could not be investigated further because he curiously resigned a few days before the event and disappeared from the city. The perpetrators stated that someone who worked at the bank gave them access to the information stored in the database, but that they did not know who it was because contact with this person was made by another member of this group who managed to escape. The investigation also showed that this group had to be guided by someone who had knowledge about the operation of the bank. Because of these and other factors that were presented, it was suggested that Lily was the one who helped these people. In the end, she was found guilty, although perhaps she was only used as a scapegoat to close the case, which would not surprise me considering the history of the Mexican police in this type of things. Then she told me how her family turned their back on her during the whole period of the investigation. I highlight her mother, who did not believe her at any time about her innocence. At this time, there was some tension between Lily and her mother for situations related to their relationship. It seems that this fact complicated things. Finally, Tanya threw in her face the damage that her action had caused to both her family's reputation and the people who lost their savings. When her sentence was passed, her mother went to her for the last time to tell her that they did not want to see her again in their lives, to which Lily returned to say that she was innocent, with her mother replying, "If you were found guilty, it is for something, right?" Soon after, her family cut all contact with her, leaving her completely devastated. As soon as Lily finished speaking, I began to apologize to her for not being with her when I needed to be, to which she replied that I did not have to apologize, because even if I had wanted to communicate, Tanya would not have allowed me to do so. Tanya was the only one allowed to visit Lily in prison, so if anyone wanted to visit her, they had to have her permission to do so. Besides this, Tanya also prevented contact by other means such as correspondence and phone calls. After a few minutes, I asked Lily how she managed to get out of prison, to which she replied that she was imprisoned for 5 years until one of the people who managed to escape was arrested. It turned out that this person was in charge of having contact with the person who gave access to the database to this group. In exchange for reducing her sentence, she agreed to give information about the fraud and how it was carried out. Ultimately, her statements proved that it was Lily's former partner who helped this group, coupled with the lack of evidence to genuinely validate Lily's participation in the scheme. In the end, it was ruled that there was no reason for Lily to remain in prison, so she was released and any criminal record on her record was expunged. She said that after her release, she tried to contact her family, but in the end, she was only able to contact her mother, who again refused to have any relationship with her. The same thing happened with her friends, who rejected her. She told me about her attempts to get a job, but the news of what happened in her previous job prevented her from getting a position in her hometown and in nearby cities. Finally, Lily left the city as there was no reason to stay there. After that, she spent a few months looking for a job and ended up coming to my company. She says that because of what she had to go through, she has trouble relating to other people, in addition to having trust issues and constant nightmares because of her time in prison. At that moment, I felt bad for her. She had to go through and deal with several things that in one way or another will leave her with lifelong traumas. I recommended that she attend therapy to deal with these issues. I told her that I would pay for everything as a way of apologizing for my absence when she needed us the most. She refused at first, but after some time of insistence, she agreed. So she began to attend the same therapist I was attending, but she asked me to accompany her to the therapy session. She was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome, depression, anxiety and confidence disorders, and sleeping problems. For the first few months that I accompanied her to her therapy sessions, I used to wait for her outside the office while she took the session individually. But eventually, she asked me to come in and accompany her during her sessions, to which I agreed. The therapist prescribed her some antidepressants, and she began going to therapy 2 days a week. Lily also began attending a healing program for conscientious objectors who have served time in prison. For my part, the therapist gave me a number of pointers to help with Lily's recovery. Although Lily's recovery was slow, I can say that it really helped. Her fear of interacting with other people was disappearing to the point where she was making friends. Her anxiety and trust issues were no longer a concern. In general, she started to change for the better. We even both started going to the gym together, and Lily started taking kickboxing classes with me. Sometimes we had friendly fights between us. The year 2012 arrived. During this period, Lily and I became closer and closer. In the work aspect, we had a good relationship with Lily, becoming my right hand in the company. On the personal side, we also had a very good relationship. We spent more and more time together. Going out for a drink or a walk became part of our routine, and we both leaned on each other during our therapy. As time went on, I realized that I had developed feelings for Lily. I know what you may be thinking right now. Did you fall in love with the twin of the woman who left you? For a while, the idea of having a relationship scared me because of my experience with Rishal. I was afraid that my fear was clouding my judgment or that my trust issues would ruin any chance of a relationship. I was also afraid that the reason I started liking Lily was that I was unconsciously looking to get back with my ex, and considering they were both almost the same, you get my point. By almost the same, I only mean that the only thing they shared was the face. In other aspects, they were totally different. By other aspects, I mean personality, way of acting, way of dressing, etc. After consulting my doubts with my therapist and my friends, I was able to confirm that I was really in love with Lily. I was falling in love with her person and not her appearance. Finally, I waited for our next outing to the bar to declare my feelings to her. I waited until we left the bar and declared how I felt about her. I explained how special I felt when I was by her side and how I only thought about spending time with her. Lily was quiet for a few minutes, then she started to cry a little and asked me if I was sure about what I was saying. At that moment, I thought I had screwed everything up and was just waiting to be rejected. I reaffirmed my stance on my feelings for her, to which she formed some distance, but a few seconds later she hugged me. Between sobs, she confessed to me that she felt the same way, confessed that she began to develop feelings for me when she saw how much I cared and cared for her. She said that I was the first person who genuinely cared for her in a long time, that I was the only one to support her when she needed it most, that I was the only one who has come to understand her. She confessed that when she is with me, she feels that she is not alone. She told me that when she is with me, she feels that a good life is possible. She told me that I gave her a reason to keep living, that I made her feel loved. At this point, I was crying too. Lily continued to cry as she hugged me. She told me that she hadn't said anything about how she felt because she was afraid. She was afraid that I wouldn't love her because of what happened with her sister. She was afraid that I wouldn't love her because of her problems. She was afraid that I would take her away from her. She was afraid that she would be alone again. At that moment, I began to comfort her and promised her that I would be by her side no matter what happened. Lily, for her part, also promised to be by my side, no matter what. From that moment on, Lily and I began our relationship. At first, it was somewhat complicated because of the problems we both had, mostly due to our trust issues and fear of betrayal. But we decided that we would not let our past stop us from being happy. Although it was a somewhat slow process, with some tense moments, we managed to build a good bond. This bond was what gave us the mental clarity and strength to take the final steps that allowed us to heal. Finally, Lily and I got married in early 2015. We both decided it would be best to have a small event, so we only invited the people closest to us. For those of you wondering, no, we did not invite our families. The idea was discussed and consulted with our therapist, but in the end, we decided not to invite them because it didn't make sense to do so because of everything that happened between us. The wedding took place on a beautiful beach. The atmosphere created by the sound of the sea and the sunset was something very unique and special. A total of 15 people attended the event. All of them were very close friends of ours, and even our therapist attended with his wife. One of the best memories I have of the wedding was seeing Lily walk down the aisle. Seeing her in her wedding dress was something I will never forget. But the moment I will treasure the most for the rest of my life was seeing her face as I put the ring on. Everything we both had to go through to get to this moment. Seeing that beautiful smile on Lily's face, I just don't know how to describe in words how it made me feel. A few weeks after the wedding, we found out that Lily was pregnant. A honeymoon pregnancy. I admit that at first we were very nervous, but as the days went by, the nerves turned into excitement and happiness. We took the pregnancy as the beginning of our new life together. At the end of 2015, Lily gave birth to a beautiful baby girl whom I will refer to as Alba. Luckily, at the hospital where the birth occurred, we were allowed to have skin-to-skin contact with Alba as soon as she was born. Holding my baby was a special moment, a unique moment when I met my daughter. Seeing her in my wife's arms, I simply would not know how to explain in words how I felt at that moment. What sentimentality and what truth. I don't think it is necessary to say what the arrival of Alba generated in our lives, both on a personal and social level. Our friends visited us every day to meet Alba. I must say that the first few months were difficult. People who have had or cared for a baby know that babies need a lot of time and attention, so it is normal to feel overwhelmed or tired. The baby's cries, having to stay up all night, preparing bottles at 4 o'clock in the morning, etc. It was a complicated period, but we were able to cope with it in a good way. We made an effort to give all the affection and love we had for our daughter despite the physical and mental exhaustion we were subjected to. As the years went by, Lily and I worked hard to ensure that Alba had a good upbringing from a young age. We dedicated ourselves to creating a loving, respectful, and trusting environment for her to thrive. Despite the fact that we both worked, we usually organized ourselves to spend time with our little girl. With this, we come to the present day. Today, I can tell you that I am the proud father of a beautiful 7-year-old girl and that I have the best wife I could wish for. As you have been able to read during my publication, it has not been an easy road. There have been good and bad moments throughout these years. But I wouldn't change a thing. I have great people by my side and I couldn't wish for anything more. My soon-to-be ex-wife and I are both in our late 30s. We've been together 12 years, married for 10. We are in a dead bedroom. It was totally dead for 6 months before I filed for divorce. It was on life support/ICU for 5 to 6 years before that. We both wanted to be younger parents, and both wanted 2 kids. We conceived our daughter almost immediately after getting married. When she was 6 months old, we started trying to have the second child. It never happened. After 3 years, we started seeing fertility specialists and found out we both have pretty serious reproductive issues. The doctor told us our daughter was nothing short of a miracle and said it was against all odds that we not only conceived but carried to term. It was after this that the sex life began to seriously decline. Initially, I thought it was just the pain of finding out and knowing we wouldn't be able to afford the fertility options, and figured it would get better over time. It never did. It only got worse. 5 years ago, I would say we had sex 15 to 20 times that year. In 2023, we had sex 3 times. I have tried everything to improve this, spicing things up, talking, suggested counseling. I more than pull my weight around the house. We both work and work basically the same hours. I'm telling this because the usual stuff I read on Reddit about how the wife does it all is not even close to true. Over time, I have grown more and more resentful. The thing that makes me the most resentful is she knows I have a high libido and just doesn't care. I, on the other hand, know she loves to be rubbed on/massaged and never took that from her. I probably rub on her 325 times a year. Almost every night I will rub her claves, shins, ankles, and feet. 4 to 5 nights a month I will go big and do neck, shoulder, back, butt, hamstring, quads, shins, calves, ankles, and feet. I noticed that doing the big massages was the best way to get sex, as she was more likely to allow me to do the foreplay things I know work on her if I had already done this prep. I did them more often a few years ago, but now not as much. The success rate was never that great, maybe 20% of the time, but in the last 2 years we are definitely in the single digits. When we hit the 4 months of absolutely no sex, I decided I wasn't rubbing on her ever again. It only took 3 days for her to notice, and she asked me to. I told her no, and I got angry. I said, "Why should I, when you don't give a fuck about what I want?" Obviously not my finest moment, and huge argument followed. Things got ice cold at home, but I wasn't giving in. I was tired of all of it. A few weeks ago, she told me, "Fine, I will just start seeing a professional masseuse." I said, "Then I will start seeing sex workers." She said that was cheating. I said, "Fine, I won't, but you will not get a massage from anyone else. That is also cheating." She said I was being ridiculous, and I said, "No, it's being touched in an intimate way by another. If I can't have that, neither can you. And I swear to fucking God, if you do, I will file for divorce that day." The following weekend, she wanted to get her nails done. I know how long it takes for her to get her nails done. She came back almost an hour and a half later than I expected. She didn't say anything, just acted normal. I got on her credit card app on my phone, and sure enough, there was a $95 charge to the goddamn massage person in the same strip mall as the nail place. I lost it, and when I did, so did she. I think we both let out years of frustration on each other. True to my word, though, I called a divorce lawyer on Monday. The only part that upset me was my lawyer said based on these circumstances I couldn't list infidelity as the reason for divorce and had to go with irreconcilable differences. Anyway, she has been telling people we are divorcing because she got a massage. Since then, I have had a number of family members/friends call me and say I'm an asshole. Some of them, even when I tell them my real reasons, still think I'm an asshole and that my reasons aren't good enough. Personally, I think getting massage when told not to is plenty of reasoning. So am I the asshole here? Personal note, I reread this and I know it comes off angry, but I am angry at myself for wasting so many years. But I'm also angry because this was just the ultimate fuck you. She just went and did it anyway and didn't even try to hide it. Literally went to the same place next to the nail salon and used her CC, which I pay, like I wasn't going to see the charge. Additional information from OOP. Large-scale response to many commenters. This thing has gotten like 2K plus comments in 12 hours. I can't even begin to address that. Most of you are correct. This isn't about a massage. I could honestly care less about the massage. That was simply what I fixated on after I finally broke. Now to those that like to ride the assumption train or, for some reason, just create your own narrative based on who knows what. I did not just massage my wife to get sex. I did this for her 300 times a year, nearly our entire relationship. I did it back when we used to have sex 10 to 15 times a month, back when foreplay was something I still got to experience, back when lingerie was common and not just a distant memory. The full massages just became the only way to get the chance of sex above zero. The small leg ones were never escalated by me and far more common. Since most people bashing me decided to skim over or ignore the short vague list of all I tried over the years, here's a more comprehensive account. Date nights, weekend vacations, love letters, long conversations where I laid out all my feelings. I'll give her credit. She never did promise to do better. Just told me she understands where I'm coming from. Guess I should have understood, then that meant she didn't care. I suggested counseling 5 times. I even booked us once and ended up going to the first 2 sessions by myself. When she said she was too busy to go the third, I just canceled and never went back. Yes, the day-to-day routine stuff is pretty balanced, as far as housework, career, and I think we are both great parents. But our relationship was one-sided. It took me a long time to see it so boldly and to stop accepting it. If she wants a snack, she doesn't get it. She asks me to drink, same thing. If she wanted to go out with friends, sure babe, no problem, go ahead. I got the girl, just worry about you. If I do, it's 2-hour prep for me to make sure nothing's gonna go wrong while I'm out. A couple years ago, I saw a clip of a comedian talking about being out golfing when his wife wanted to watch a DVD, and everyone's laughing as he's describing the whole conversation. I just wanted to bawl my eyes out, because that was my life. I just stopped trying to even go out. It wasn't worth the effort anymore. Yeah, we had other forms of intimacy. We cuddled at bedtime to fall asleep. She never really liked kissing or hand-holding, so I wrote those off back when times were good. So I had cuddling, and on the very rare occasion sex to look forward to. Now let's flip this over. Besides the near-daily rub-downs, also pretty common for me to brush her hair. She likes that, she'll ask for that. Painted toenails a few times. Back scratching, pretty common. Oh, usually draw her a bath after she works out. Does that count as intimacy? Or is that just more of only doing things to fuck her? I guess I am the asshole. I'm the asshole to myself for putting up with this for so long. And I get it, you're all right. We both have unprocessed trauma from having our dreams dashed, but I didn't quit. I honestly didn't berate her emotionally because of this. I knew she was having a hard time. Yeah, I let my frustrations or disappointment show sometimes, but I didn't get angry. Not until now, not until I had that bad day. And she said, well, tomorrow will be better. Can you rub on me? And the sick thing is I felt totally dismissed and still did it anyway. After, I was so angry I just decided I'm never rubbing on her again. And Eve been angry ever since. Even now typing this has put me in a full rage. No, I really don't give a shit about the massage. It was just the final fuck you of our marriage. AITA has no consensus spot. OP received mixed reactions of NTAs and YTAs. Relevant comments. Taylor 5, question. What's your wife's reaction to you filing for divorce? OP, she has been rather pissed off too. Thinks I am being ridiculous and childish. Which the massage thing was, I admit. But she has said my desire for sex is juvenile, that I'm not some teenager, and we have a life that I am throwing away over nothing. That was all the initial reaction. Now she's full go for divorce, but makes it sound like a competition. So I'm expecting plenty of bullshit. My lawyer says outside of a 50-50 split, she doesn't have much to fight for. We make almost the exact same amount in terms of annual salary. 50-50 is the default for custody, and since I found an apartment about 10 minutes bike ride away and still in the same school, that's not going to be an issue. I'm contemplating some concessions just to move the process, although she hasn't done anything or said anything yet. I'm just getting prepared if she does. Update number 1. April 29th, 2024. Little update. While this is not official by any means at this point, I'll take it as a positive. SDBX asked me to meet yesterday to hash out some details of the divorce, and it was actually pretty productive. We agreed on a 50-50 custody arrangement. Basically week there, week here. Becomes 2 weeks during summer break. We each keep our own retirements, splitting the savings 60-40 her favor. Each keep our primary vehicle. I made a huge concession on the house. It was my idea. I want our child to grow up in that house. Ours was a 3-bedroom, with a finished basement and nice yard. I don't want her to live in a pair of 2-bedroom apartments. This is important to me. I'll be paying a housing alimony each month to offset some costs, since my rent and projected utilities etc. are much lower than the mortgage/utilities/upkeep. We did agree on some stipulations that would end that. If another adult should moves in, i.e. a boyfriend/new husband, my obligation ends immediately. My obligation ends when our daughter moves out or turns 22, whichever comes first. There's a bunch of different scenarios we talked about in terms of splitting the house if she wishes to sell it. I won't bore with all of that, but basically as long as I continue to make the alimony payment, I'll get 40% at time of sale or a buyout. I'm turning all this over to my lawyer this week, and he will write it up and send it to her lawyer. While she definitely had a "you are beneath me" vibe during our meeting, I'm happy this doesn't look like it will be an ugly divorce as I was very worried it would be. I assume our daughter is the motivating factor for her sudden, amicable attitude. Relevant comments. OP on if his daughter is actually his since he and his wife were not able to have any more children. OP. We literally conceived within a few weeks of being married. We were going at it like rabbits back then, literally newlyweds spending every second together. I don't want to pick on you, but this is the most annoying part of Reddit. I know I acted like an asshole about the massage, and I know it's not actually cheating, but there is no actual infidelity anywhere in any post or comment I've made. I don't understand why would you jump to that, and it's not just you, several others have to, but I truly have no fears that she was ever unfaithful. Update number 2, May 1st, 2024. Well, that didn't last long. Lawyer called first thing this morning. Wife changed mind, rejecting all the house stuff we talked about. Says she wants to sell and move into something smaller. She is only rejecting the house agreements. Custody agreement is not being rejected. I told my lawyer fine, I'm done. Told him here's the offer from my side then. 50-50 custody, 50-50th split of house sale. I'll still go 60-40ths on savings. I know some you say this is dumb/unfair, but I have my reasons and they all revolve around our daughter. I'm actually fine with this. Not even upset that she wasted 4 hours of our time on Saturday. Just ready to be done. After my initial tirade, I have really come into a good place. It's like I spent years carrying around a backpack of stones, and I finally decided to put it down. Personal response to OnlyFans models. Stop sending me invites and messages. I can jack off on my own just fine for free. I'm not going to pay you. Leave people the fuck alone. Relevant comments. Old_hamster 4218. I don't understand the 60-40 savings. If it revolves around your daughter and you're 50-50 on custody, you having the money is the same as your wife having it. Unless she has more responsible spending practices or something. OP. Okay, I have paid all the bills our whole marriage. I don't mean my money, we both work. I mean I have been the person in charge of making sure things get paid. I also don't really spend a lot on myself month to month. Sure I do some, but she is definitely more of a spender. I'd rather give her some more buffer while she learns how to manage finances. Because, yeah, I think she's going to fuck up. Maybe I'm wrong, but this woman hasn't thought about bills or budgets in years. And I don't mean to say she is irresponsible. She's not. She wasn't a crazy spender or anything. Maybe I'm being irrationally accommodating. Also, really need to stress we aren't rich people. This isn't some gigantic amount of money we're debating here. In all honesty, if she feels like she's winning and we divorce faster, I'll consider it money well spent. Hi everyone. I, 28F, have an older sister, Laura, 30F, and we've always been close. Our parents passed away a few years ago in a car accident, leaving us both devastated. They left behind a sizable inheritance, which was to be split equally between us. However, there was a twist. Our mother had a prized antique necklace, which she explicitly stated in her will should go to Laura. I didn't mind at first because I assumed my sister would cherish it as much as our mother did. Laura, however, surprised me by announcing she wanted to sell the necklace to fund a startup business. I was heartbroken and felt like she was betraying our mother's memory, but I didn't say anything because it was technically hers to do with as she pleased. Fast forward to a year later, Laura's business had taken off, and she was doing extremely well. I was happy for her, even if the way she got there hurt me. Meanwhile, I was struggling financially due to some poor investments. I approached Laura for a loan, not a handout, just a loan to help me get back on my feet. She flatly refused, saying she couldn't mix family and business. Feeling desperate, I reached out to our extended family for help. That's when I learned the truth. Laura had secretly sold the necklace not for her startup, but to cover up a massive debt she had accumulated due to gambling. Our parents' lawyer confirmed it. She had lied to everyone, including me. Please subscribe to support the channel. Feeling betrayed, I confronted Laura. She admitted everything, but instead of apologizing, she accused me of being jealous of her success. That was the final straw. I cut her off completely, blocked her on all social media, and stopped attending family gatherings where she would be present. Our family is now divided. Some think I'm justified, while others believe I overreacted. They say Laura had a right to do what she needed with her inheritance, even if it meant lying. But to me, it wasn't just about the money. It was about the betrayal and the disrespect to our parents' memory. So, AITA for cutting off my sister over this? Comments. Supportive soul. NTA. Your sister betrayed your trust and disrespected your parents' memory. She needs to face the consequences of her actions. Financially strapped. I understand your pain. Financial struggles can strain any relationship. But your sister's gambling problem makes this even more complicated. Maybe she needs help more than anything. Legal. You might have grounds for legal action. Fraud is a serious matter, and you deserve your share of the inheritance. Update 1. Thank you all for your overwhelming support and advice. I've decided to take legal action against Laura to reclaim my share of the inheritance. Our parents' lawyer suggested there might be grounds for fraud given her deception about the necklace. During the legal proceedings, another bombshell dropped. Laura had also borrowed money from several family members under false pretenses, claiming it was for her startup when it was actually to pay off her gambling debts. This revelation turned the tide of opinion in my favor within the family. They felt betrayed and started to distance themselves from her. The court ruled in my favor, and Laura was ordered to repay me a significant sum. However, instead of feeling vindicated, I felt a deep sadness. Laura's addiction had driven her to this point, and despite everything, she was still my sister. Comments. Empathy needed. Wow, what a mess. I'm glad the truth came out. Maybe now your sister can get the help she needs. Justice served. Sometimes legal action is the only way to make things right. You did the right thing. Stay strong. Family matters. This is heartbreaking. Addiction can tear families apart. Maybe there's still hope for reconciliation. Update 2. During this tumultuous period, I discovered an old journal belonging to our mother. Hidden within its pages was a letter addressed to both Laura and me. It was written shortly after our father passed away and before she knew her time was limited. In it, she expressed her hopes and dreams for us, emphasizing the importance of family and forgiveness. She mentioned the necklace, saying she trusted Laura to keep it safe, but also to use it wisely if ever in need. The letter shook me to my core. Our mother knew we might face hardships and hoped we would support each other through thick and thin. It made me question my decision to cut Laura out of my life entirely. Comments. Heartfelt letter. That letter is a sign. Maybe it's time to reach out to your sister and offer support. Family is important. Skeptical mind. Be careful. Addiction is tricky. While the letter is touching, don't let it blind you to the reality of your sister's issues. Forgiveness first. Your mother's words are powerful. Maybe this is an opportunity for healing. Update 3. With mixed emotions, I reached out to Laura one last time. I offered to help her seek treatment for her gambling addiction, with the condition that she would be honest and make amends with everyone she hurt. To my surprise, she agreed. She entered a rehabilitation program and began the long journey toward recovery. Months have passed since Laura started her treatment. She's making progress and has even begun to mend relationships with our family. We've had several heart-to-heart conversations, and she's expressed genuine remorse for her actions. It hasn't been easy, and trust is something that will take time to rebuild. But for the first time in a long while, I feel hopeful. Laura's recovery is ongoing, and she has a support system in place. Our family is slowly healing from the wounds of betrayal and loss. Thank you to everyone who helped me see things more clearly. Your advice not only helped me navigate this difficult situation, but also gave me the strength to support my sister when she needed it the most. So, was I the asshole? Maybe, maybe not. But sometimes, the lines between right and wrong blur when it comes to family. In the end, it's about finding a way forward, even if that path is fraught with pain and difficulty. Comments. Redemption arc. This is the best possible outcome. It sounds like you both are on the path to healing. Wishing you both the best. Support system. It takes a lot of courage to offer help to someone who hurt you. Kudos to you for being strong and compassionate. Cautiously optimistic. I hope Laura stays on this path. Addiction is a lifelong battle, but it sounds like she has a good support system now. I, 23M, caught my wife, 24F, having an emotional affair with one of my friends. So let me put this into context. I have been with my wife for 5 years now, and for the majority of our relationship it has been positive. There was one time where she slipped up early in our relationship, where she had exchanged nudes with this guy in our friend group. She confessed to me not long after it happened and immediately cut the guy off. I still loved her, so I thought it would be worth it trying to get through it. Fast forward until December of 2023, I was noticing my wife feeling a little lonely when I'd be playing video games. So I decided to add her to my group so she could join me when she felt like it. She ended up adding this guy who I will name Jason. I noticed they would talk to each other every day on Snapchat. However, I felt like I trusted her enough to not be that crazy kind of person to go through phones. Now over a month ago, we had a moment where we were contemplating divorce, and we ended up deciding we would take a break away from each other. So I went to stay at my parents' home for about a week and came back on the weekend. Immediately during our time apart, I noticed the difference in our relationship. It felt like we both were a lot more loving and were trying harder when we came back together. One night I knew she had friends over for drinks, and I didn't have a problem with it. Over the last few months, she's made a habit of having friends over when I have work on the weekend. One of these nights I came home because I was sent home because the work medic thought I may have COVID because I had a high fever. I come home to my wife over the toilet not feeling well. I do everything I can to make her feel better, getting her some water and some light food. After a while she goes and joins her friends outside again. A random thought occurred to me that she hadn't been wearing her rings, which wasn't uncommon for her as her fingers can get pretty swollen when she wears them all the time. So I checked her sliding drawer of her bedside and there they were. What I wasn't expecting was to see a note. It said, "I love you, Jason," and the word fuck underneath it. My mind immediately thought the worst, and I did everything in my power to control myself and not get angry. I walked outside and asked her if she could have a chat and brought her back into our bedroom. I showed her the note, and at first she tried to play it off like it was a joke that she had done. But with the drink she had, it was a lot easier to get the truth out of her, and she confessed that she and these guys had exchanged pictures as well. I was shattered. Immediately I was angry, and I said I was done. She broke my trust again, and I was ready to leave. But for whatever reason, there was a part of me that still loved her and thought, we are married. And that married couples work hard to get through these problems. So that's what I did. I stayed and tried to work through this issue, and she was extra affectionate and loving and positive on working on being the best wife she could be. As the days went on, I started to blame myself. Was I that horrible of a husband that she had to seek comfort in another man? Was I really the problem? Little did I know, she hadn't cut this guy off even though she claimed to have. One night I found a message on her phone from a number I hadn't recognized. The message had love hearts and X's, so I was ready to lose it. I composed myself, saved the number on my phone, and called it the next day. I called on no caller ID, and when I heard who was on the other side, my heart dropped. It was Jason. I was crushed and confronted her immediately. Now my wife, she has some mental issues. She has episodes where she loses all sense of reality, and one night it got so bad she tried to end her life. Now I wasn't aware of this, but she said Jason was the one that was able to get her to stop, and because of this she wasn't able to so easily cut him off, and said she only kept contact because she felt entitled to and didn't want him to worry. She also said she didn't tell me because she knew I'd get angry about it. I said I understood, but said as of now, I don't want you talking to him, especially as we are trying to keep our relationship. The same night I was up late and my mind couldn't stop thinking, and I stumbled across this TikTok of a couple in the street. And the guy showed them you could see recently deleted messages with people on iMessage. So that's what I did. Immediately I saw it said only 27 messages had been deleted. So I believed her when she said that she had only been checking with him and letting him know she was okay. I then pressed recover messages to make sure, and there it was. Messages leading all the way up until tonight. Her sending photos with him, both of them flirting and claiming their love for each other. I was shattered, broken. I didn't bother waiting and woke her up. I was done. I called her out for being a liar and a manipulative and horrible person. She begged me to stay, bawled her eyes out as I was walking around grabbing all my stuff to pack and leave that night. For whatever reason, I couldn't go. I needed to know why. She herself said that she didn't know, and even in the messages she's telling the guy about how our relationship is doing so much better, and then messages later they're talking about him taking her clothes off. It makes me sick. I remember being angry and then going blank. I woke up on the floor to her asking if I needed to call my family or call anyone. I was dazed but didn't answer. She claimed she couldn't lose me and said she would out herself to the public of what she had done. Ruin her reputation, anything to save us. She claimed her mental health was so bad, and that when she was with me she felt as though that was the real her, and then the one that was talking to him was another person entirely. Whether or not that's an excuse, I said I'll see if this can be saved. I'm sitting here laying in bed, thinking and knowing I deserve better. But part of me is afraid of what she'll do if I leave her. We don't have any children together, but we have animals, and they have bonded, so I would be heartbroken to separate them. What do I do, and should I be running? Or am I right to stick around and try and make things work after she gets diagnosed and sees a therapist for her mental health? Okay, so this girl I know from high school is getting married. We're both 22, for reference. In our senior year of high school, she got pregnant with baby daddy A, who will be referred to as Adam. Her super conservative parents kicked her out, and she ended up moving in with a friend's family. She barely graduated high school. The only reason she did were because of the generosity and support of our teachers and students who volunteered to help her, which is how we met. We were in the same law class in the morning, and she had the worst morning sickness that really affected her ability to be in class. So, I took extra notes for her, tutored her, and brought her stuff if she hadn't come back by the bell. I wasn't the only one who did stuff like this for her, and I know she really appreciates all the assistance we gave her. She had the baby a month after we graduated. She'd signed up for a 911 dispatcher course for after high school because where we live it's a good steady job, with opportunity for certificates and promotions. But she didn't realize how intensive the course would be and had to drop out. She started working at a grocery store bakery just until she had a better plan. Adam started an apprenticeship while working part-time at a hockey rink and proposed to her literally the day of her 18th birthday and brought up marriage because it's the right thing to do. I don't really agree with that, but this isn't about me. And she was always refusing. She started cheating on him after a while. We're all 19 now. And eventually leaves him for another guy because she's pregnant again, and it is far more likely that this guy, baby daddy B, who will be referred to as Brad, is the father of the child. Neither of them can afford lawyers, so getting any kind of custody agreement is a mess. And then their parents got involved and they did 50-50th split, still not made official. She has the baby. That does turn out to be Brad's, and everything is okay for about 9 months when she finds out Brad has been cheating on her with his TA. Brad decides to pay child support but doesn't really want contact with the kid, only around holidays and 1 weekend a month for his parents' sake. She moves back in with her parents, we're all 20 now, who only accept her back because there's grandchildren around. On the plus side, when she's 21, she gets to take that year-long dispatcher course and passes with flying colors. After working as a dispatcher for a year, we're all 22 now, she meets a police officer we'll call Chad, who's 26 and married, and Adam's second cousin. I can't remember how they're related, just that Adam and Chad are related somewhat distantly. She has an affair with him. Infidelity is super common among cops apparently. She gets knocked up, his wife divorces him. Chad proposes because it's the right thing to do. She accepts, and her parents kick her out again for being a insert expletive here. She moves in with Chad with her 2 kids. They've started planning the wedding, which, given the background, is something akin to a dumpster fire. Adam is livid. He was desperately in love with this girl and hasn't really recovered from what she did to him. And while she rejected his proposals years ago, she's accepted one from his cousin who propsed for the same reason he did. Adam has basically made a call for loyalty in the family, dividing everyone one who should go, who should give money, etc. Plus, they're having trouble planning anything because of COVID. Her parents have outright said that they're not going, along with half of her family, and her younger sister has been going around and sabotaging what plans they can make. She has asked me to be a bridesmaid. I said that I couldn't because I live in a different province now, but the truth is, I do not want to be wrapped up in that clusterfuck in any way. I'm just watching the arguments and events unfold on social media because this is quite honestly the most entertaining thing I've seen all year. It's weird to me that she even asked because we're not friends. We never have been. We were friendly strangers in high school. I just helped her out for one class because she needed help and I could give it to her. I was just being nice. But based on how she turned out, I'm just sad for her. 3 kids in 4 years, and she's alienated so much of her friends and family because of her actions, and I'm torn between feeling sorry for her and putting my head in my hands. Edit 1. First off, all of your comments are hilarious. Second, I'm going to answer some of the common questions. We're from a city with over 400,000 people. She just comes from the neighborhood that is made of either Bible thumpers or white trash, with no in between. But the high school we went to was in a completely different neighborhood than that. Our school had a pretty good sex ed course, and they gave out free condoms and had resources to help girls get birth control, and they had programs in place for if students ever got pregnant / were going to be teen parents. They also had one of those classes with the dolls for girls who were high risk at teen pregnancy, but she wasn't high risk, so she wasn't in that class. I don't know if BC just didn't work for her, or if she never tried it. She started alienating her friends after the affair with Chad came out, because people weren't exactly jumping for joy that she'd broken up a marriage. Chad and his ex didn't have any kids, thankfully, so there were less obstacles. When people weren't immediately ecstatic for her, she started getting very snippy, rude, and was calling the bitches out on social media for not supporting her new relationship or pregnancy. TBH, I'm really worried about her health because having this many babies so close together is just not good for her health, mental or physical. People are also worried that Chad will cheat on her. If he'll cheat with you, he'll cheat on you, and think she should avoid marrying him so that she can just leave him if it happens. I'll give you updates as they come out, but so far it's just a lot of yelling on social media, mostly from her. Some relatives slut-shaming her, and people who are just really worried about her because, as funny as this is, this doesn't seem like healthy behavior. Edit 2. First off, I realized I never gave this girl a name. For the sake of clarity, we'll call her Beth. I realized that I didn't mention this before, but all of these are fake names. Second, to everyone commenting that Chad is at fault for his marriage breaking up, believe me, I'm well aware of that. It is his ex-wife and her family/friends who solely blame Beth. Chad is also older than her and has more life experience, so I do believe that he could potentially be taking advantage of her naivete. However, she is also an adult who is capable of making her own decisions and has chosen to make poor ones in the past. Third, people who are upset that I'm posting this story here, claiming I'm humiliating her. She has been posting about this mess on every social media platform she has since they got engaged in July. She put this out there long before I did, except she did so in front of friends, family, employers, and coworkers, as well as internet randos. Fourth, despite getting engaged in July and attempting to start planning then, I was only asked to be a bridesmaid 3 days ago. I knew that there was a mess going on, but I didn't really pay attention to it until she asked me to be a bridesmaid. I tried to ask what was going on. I said that she should talk to someone, but when she completely brushed me off, I checked her FB and Instagram and found out about all of this. Fifth, I realized that I didn't really talk about how disastrous the wedding planning has been going. See, here you go. They've had to rebook 3 times because venues and vendors kept canceling when infection numbers got worse, even thought their wedding was months away. Beth has been flipping between having the wedding while she's pregnant, saying she's proud of her bump, and wanting to wait until they're born because she feels fat, which is unfortunate because she's been breaking down due to her insecurity on a public platform. Beth is currently 7 months pregnant. Beth's great aunt was going to give her her wedding dress to wear after she gives birth, but Beth's mom freaked and stole the dress from said aunt before Beth could get it and is now keeping it. The great aunt says she's too old to get in a fight and has shrugged it off. Chad's immediate family is paying for the wedding and has been cut off by the rest of their extended family for choosing Chad. Beth's wedding colors are pink and green, which is usually a nice combo, but the specific shades don't go great together. They're her and Chad's favorite colors, which is fine, but she literally made a video talking about these colors for 14 minutes on her Insta, and both of her kids are just full-on bawling in the background and she's ignoring them, and she's gotten some flack for that. Adam is finally settled into his trade and has now hired a lawyer and is trying to get primary custody and not allow his daughter to go to the wedding. She's planning a Zoom baby shower/bachelorette party and has sent out a registry, and she's asking for crazy expensive things. She's also set up a GoFundMe to help pay for a honeymoon and is making a lot of posts about how no one loves her cause the fund only has $1,267 of the $20,000 she wanted. I'll update when I can, but I'm still in school, and while I do want to help her, she's refused help offered in the past, and there's only so much of this I can take mentally right now. Date. Hey everyone. So some stuff has gone down, and it doesn't look like it's over yet. Sorry, I didn't update sooner, but Rona came back with a vengeance and totally messed up plans with uni and family. Anyway, on to the update. From the last update, 16th, lots of ranting and chaotic wedding planning on social media. She found a dress and has decided she will get married while pregnant. They found a local wedding venue that is very lovely, but I'm shocked she's still trying to book stuff with all of their previous venue cancellations. December 16th, her little sister unblocked her to call her AS*UT and tell her that all her wedding plans were stupid. This resulted in a petty and entertaining Facebook war until the little sis blocked her again on the 17th. December 18th, Beth went nuts on social media because Adam had kidnapped their daughter. What really happened is that because courts are moving at a snail's pace due to COVID and Adam had reason to believe that their daughter was not safe living with Beth, he decided to just not give her back. They don't have a custody agreement, and when Beth tried to call the cops, they couldn't do anything because he was kinda right. There were dozens of videos on her various social media accounts of her ignoring their daughter, yelling at her daughter for crying or doing other things that toddlers do. It turns out that everything she needed was bought by Adam: food, diapers, clothes, toys, daycare, while it was open. It set her on top of the unofficial child support he was paying every month, which turned out to be $500 a month, a number I find ridiculous because Adam was already paying for literally everything, because she refused to buy anything for her daughter and insisted it was Adam's responsibility. Additionally, after the immediate post-birth appointments, Beth never took Baby A to a doctor's appointment. She always deferred that to Adam. Baby A's pediatrician has never met Beth. Beth even tried to get Chad to push back or intimidate him or something, but the local police where we live are under one hell of a microscope after a bunch of dirty cops got busted a couple of years ago. Basically, the cops and the social worker they ended up calling ended up saying there was nothing she could do until they get to court. The social worker tried to get her to go to therapy and parenting classes, but Beth refused and went on a 15-paragraph-long rant on Facebook about how she doesn't need parenting classes or therapy. She really does though, and called the social worker some choice words. December 19th to 24th. Just a bunch of ranting on social media, calling everyone who doesn't enable or justify her behavior cuss words, slurs, and a whole bunch of other horribly creative things. Also, both she and Chad are under investigation at work now, but she has no idea why. I'm going to take this time to remind everyone that 99% of this info is coming from her public social media pages where her coworkers or friends and place of employment is listed. December 25th. I am officially embarrassed to know this woman. I didn't go on her FB page until the evening because I didn't want to deal with drama. First thing in the morning, on Christmas. In the morning, she put on a very beautiful blue maternity dress, got Chad in his police blues, and Baby B in a purple romper, and then live-streamed her and her family going to the courthouse to get married on Christmas Day. According to her Twitter, part of this was because their newest venue canceled on them after COVID numbers spiked. Overall, a pretty tacky thing in my opinion because she stated plain as day, several times, that she intended her wedding anniversary to eclipse Christmas for her children because it's just so much more special, you know? I am so glad that Baby B's grandparents are filing for guardianship, but here's the thing. The courthouse isn't open. Because of COVID for one thing, but also because it's Christmas and Canada has a predominantly Christian history. She proceeded to have a full meltdown. And when Baby B cried because, you know, the kid's mom was screaming up a storm and scaring her, Beth called her a C** and T up. So done with this bitch. December 28th, I ran into her at a vaccine clinic because we were both getting our booster shots. She didn't recognize me at first, but one of my old bosses, because I used to work at the hospital the vaccine clinic was in, called my name and said hi. So she came up to me after my old boss had left. We talked a bit while we sat down for the mandatory waiting period after getting the shot. She asked how I was, but didn't even wait for me to respond before she started ranting and complaining about her life. I was just going to sit there until the time was up and then just politely make my exit, but when she started talking shit about her kids, something inside me snapped. I just said, "Do you even like your kids? Do you like being a mom?" She got pretty quiet for a second and then said, "No, ick." Her voice and demeanor completely changed, and we just sat in silence until our time was up. I said goodbye, but it was really awkward. December 31st, today. I just looked at her feed and this is such a shocking the actual F*** moment. She's thinking about giving up her kids. She went on about how recently she was asked if she liked her kids or being a mom, and how she realized that she didn't. She hates her children and blames them for ruining her life, and how she doesn't want to be a mom. I mean, nothing is official yet, but what the hell? I'll update as stuff happens now that I have the time, but this whole thing has been a big giant mess. Also, sorry for any formatting or grammatical errors. I'm not used to using Reddit on my PC. Update. Okay, so some stuff has happened and most of it's good. Also, the TLDR for this update will be at the bottom. January 4th, Beth and Chad stopped posting on all social media. I was actually a little worried she died. I mean, this woman posts everything short of her trips to the bathroom on IG. Oddly enough, this got people messaging or interacting with her social media pages because she was usually the one to start contact, and that contact was usually yelling. No one heard from them and some people started to be like, should we call the cops for a wellness check? Until Chad posted a status saying that they're fine but are busy. Please stop trying to contact us right now. Everyone listened, but it was weird. January 11th. I got a notification that Beth and Chad are active on social media again, but I didn't feel like drama, so I didn't check out any of their posts. January 12th, today. She messaged me on FB asking me to be her MOH. She also kept going on about the resort in Cancun that she and Chad were looking to have their wedding at this coming February. Omicron is really bad where we are, so no one should be traveling anywhere. I've actually had to delay my trip back to the province where I go to university. No one should be traveling anywhere. Beth also found out that Chad was cheating on her with one of her coworkers and called the woman a homewrecker on FB, tagged her, and posted the text she found on Chad's phone. But Chad is the love of her life, so she's forgiven him, but not the other woman, which I find very hypocritical, considering how she and Chad got together. She also sent pics of possible bridesmaid dresses, and they are the most hideous dresses I've ever seen. I know that some brides do that thing where they want to look a million times better by comparison, but this was just ridiculous. One of them looked like a partially deflated balloon with feathers strapped to it. She also openly admitted that she expected everyone attending to pay $3K, $2K would go towards that guest stay at the resort, and $1K would go to her and Chad, and they will expected wedding gifts so that they could get their room for free. Apparently, she talked to someone at the resort, and if she got enough people to book their rooms, she and Chad would get theirs for free. She also wanted the money to be given to her instead of directly to the hotel, so that people wouldn't realize that she was taking $1K of their money. Beth sent me a pic of the wedding dress she wanted, and it's definitely a clubbing dress. If that's what she wants, that's fine, and for the record, I do think she would look great in it, Beth's current dream wedding dress, but she wants all the guests to be dressed black tie. And she's already sent a list of unreasonable requests, such as, all women must wear heels for a wedding in the beach? No one is allowed to have a baby or be pregnant, really? Girls must have longer than shoulder-length hair. Boys must have very short hair, only an inch or two long. No one is allowed to be skinnier than her. She will be providing diets for everyone attending based on how she wants us to look. She and Chad must get bachelor and bachelorette parties both in Canada and in Mexico that need to be fit for a king and queen. And both must be paid for, but anyone but the bride and groom, cause that's just tacky. No unnatural hair. No tattoos. You have 5 tattoos, Beth, and in the dress you want all will be on full display. No one is allowed to talk to her directly. They must speak through the MOH and BM. Honestly, there's a lot more, but I didn't feel like typing all that out. She's posted the list on FB and IG, and people are already calling her a bridezilla. I was also just kinda weirded out because aside from the previous convo at the hospital, and when she originally asked me to be a bridesmaid, we haven't spoken since high school. So I respectfully declined, stating that the virus and school were my top concerns right now. Then, I decided to check her socials to see if she'd posted anything. She had, and everything was basically how it was before the hiatus. Except her kids are nowhere to be found. No, look at my cute baby. Pics her kids crying in the background of her videos. Nothing. Though, based on her new pics of herself, she's given birth to baby C. I mean, she's definitely still recovering, but she also definitely had a baby, and that baby is not on any of her socials. So when she responded to my decline with an attempt at guilting me to be her MOH, I asked her where her kids were. This was her response. Oh, I left them at the side of the road in our way home from the hospital. Those moochers could walk home all. I was like, please tell me you're not being serious, especially because it looks like she had the baby days ago. And she replied, I was just joking, you shouldn't be so serious all the time. Honey, you made a joke about child abandonment/abuse. You're not being serious enough. And then I finally got the update on the kids. Baby A is still with Adam. Beth signed away her rights. Baby B and baby C have been given to a mutual cousin of Adam and Chad who is infertile. TBH, I didn't need that last tidbit of info or the 3-paragraph long rant about how God hates infertile women. I didn't even read all of it. I couldn't. And I didn't think that Beth could be so cruel to even think those things. I checked out the FB page of Baby B's grandparents and they're happy with their grandchild's new parents. It looks like the cousin and her husband and welcoming them to the family as another set of grandparents and will let them have access to be. So yay. One thing I do need to stress though is that because of COVID, the courts in our areas are either moving at a snail's pace or closed. So none of this is official, but Beth and Chad has signed paperwork and all that needs to happen now is presenting that to a judge. And when I rejoined our convo, she said the doc she had for baby C gave her birth control, and she was surprised cause after her first pregnancy, she asked her doctor for it, but he refused to give her any. She mentioned that her old doctor was also her mom's and sister's doctor. She ended up asking the doc who delivered baby C to be her new doctor. So I hope that works out. After learning all this, my convo with Beth started to go downhill. Beth, wait, did you actually think I would just leave my kids at the side of the road? I just didn't want to be a mom. But I wasn't a bad one. Me, Beth, I think that you've been through a lot of trauma in the past few years, and that it's gotten to you mentally, and that you should speak to a professional. Of course, Beth has been a bad mom, but she does need mental health help, and I wasn't going to convince her to get it, or to not tell it me, if I said that. Beth, what? You think I'm crazy?
Me, no.
I think that getting kicked out as a teen because of a pregnancy and having your family actively reject you and try to sabotage you must have been very painful. Plus, pregnancy puts a lot of mental stress on women, and you've had 3 in such a short time span. I just want you to take care of yourself and get what you want in life. And I think that will start with you taking care of your mental health. Beth, what I want is for you to go straight to hell. Beth then calls me every cuss word, expletive, and derogatory word she can think of. One of the words she called me was a derogatory word about people from my ethnicity, and my blood is boiling that she thought it was okay to say that to me. So, I'm now on her hit list. She's been blowing up my social media all day. On her last FB post where she called me a slur, she said that she still expects a good wedding gift from me.
Yeah, no.
So I've blocked her on everything, and I've decided to completely cut off contact. This will be my last update. TLDR, Beth went on a social media blackout for a bit, had baby C, gave up all her kids. Baby A is still with Adam. Baby B and baby C are with a mutual cousin of Adam and Chad, and baby B's grandparents have access. Chad cheated on her, and she forgave him, but she probably shouldn't have. She's decided to have her wedding in a little over a month in Cancun and is expecting unreasonable things of everyone already. She asked me to be MOH. I respectfully declined. I also suggested that she talk to a mental health professional because she's been through a lot in the last few years, and she cussed me out. She also called me a derogatory name directed at people of my ethnicity, and that was the final nail in the coffin. I'm now on her hit list, but her kids are safe, and I have no interest in going to wedding, so I'm cutting contact completely and have already blocked her on all my socials. I'm refusing to be involved with her anymore and will not be updating on the situation. Edit. New update. January 25th, 2023, TLDR at the bottom. Hi, everyone. I didn't think I would be making another update, but here I am. I don't know if anyone will even care, but whatever. I saw a YouTuber, Charlotte Dobe, do an entire video about this post on Facebook, which was funny. She did it well. Editor's note. Here's the video in question, and also, check out Charlotte Dobe's subreddit. And got so nervous that Beth was gonna see it. Turned out, she's seen it and does not give a single damn, because as I pointed out, the majority of the info in this post came from her public social media. She also doesn't know who posted it. More on that in the update. I am still no contact with Beth and have no plans to change that anytime soon, but we have mutual friends who have told and shown me what's happened. First things first, she and Chad did get married, but they eloped. According to all sources, they are completely and utterly miserable though. Chad has proven to be an overall lazy and unfaithful husband, and Beth has really gotten into feminism, with a focus on reproductive issues, after she started using birth control, and Roe v. Wade getting overturned, even though we're in Canada, really caused tension in their marriage. As it turns out, Chad thinks that abortion is murder, and God created women for the purpose of making babies. Beth tried to argue that not all women want or should be mothers, using herself as an example, and then Chad went ahead and used her as an example of why women should be forced to have kids, because in the end she gave kids to an infertile couple. She didn't take that well and said that her entire life and future was ripped away from her and destroyed the second she got pregnant with baby A. Adam was never slut-shamed or demeaned like she was, both at home and at school, which is a fair point. Myself and many others were helpful and supportive, but there were a lot of people who judged the hell out of her and said really nasty stuff, and that if she hadn't gotten pregnant she would have gone to college or university because she lost the general and financial support of her family with that positive pregnancy test. Chad has made a Tinder account. Beth was informed, but it doesn't seem like she gave a damn. So basically you could cut the tension with a knife. And with her family, her sister came out as gay and has been cut off from their parents. But she's got a partial scholarship, so she's doing okay. She and Beth are not on good terms, but have met up and acknowledged that their parents messed them up by being religious nuts, and their parents encouraged them to be competitive with each other and sabotage each other. Apparently their dad's motto is, competition brings out the best in everyone, ugh. But they've talked, and that's good enough for now. Neither Beth nor Chad have custody or visitation of their children, which Chad is starting to regret because he's suddenly getting more and more into the church and religion. Chad talked to Beth about getting baby C back, but Beth shut that down hard and warned the cousin who adopted baby C, officially and legally by the way. Beth started going to therapy after she and Chad got married, which makes me very happy and excited for her. There was a rumor going around that Chad has a mistress, and it took me a while to confirm, but it's true. He's cheating on her with a paramedic, and she knows. Beth is fully aware. If she plans to do anything about it or just continue to ignore it, but I hope she leaves his ass. I'm still not going to talk to her. She crossed so many lines, but she's grown and improved a lot, and her life would be a lot better without that sack of scum in her life. Now, I have given a few details in my post that should have revealed my identity to her, namely her asking me to be her MOH. I have found out that she actually asked around 15 girls, including myself, to be her MOH, without telling any of us about the others, because she was trying to get money from all of us, and because her mental health has just been very bad and she needed help. And of those 15, 8 have been going to school out of province, and of those 8 we all had basically the same classes in high school. And apparently doesn't remember our discussion at the vaccination clinic and had major blow up with everyone she asked to be MOH. So she knows it's one of 8 people and reportedly has no interest in trying to narrow that number down. Chad did the same thing with his groomsmen, but any of the numbers. TL, Dr. Beth and Chad got married, eloped, are miserable, have 0 custody or visitation with any of their children. Chad's cheating and Beth doesn't appear to care. Chad is super sexist. Beth is a feminist now. Beth's sister is gay and they've talked but not reconciled. Beth asked too many girls to be MOH for money and doesn't know the ID of who made this post. Dear Beth, if this post gets forwarded to you or somehow graces your phone screen, leave Chad. He's trash and you'll be much better without him in your life. And though I'm not willing to talk to you again because of your words and actions, I do wish for you to have a wonderful and happy life. Just wanted to tell my story and maybe get some input. I, 37F, accidentally found out last month my husband, 38M, was using work trips as an excuse to sleep with his also married coworker who lives across the country. When I say accidentally, he sent me a screenshot of Amazon purchases for our children, and included at the bottom of the photo was a delivery to this woman. So yes, the worried wife in me checked his search history and email. It was all right there. I learned his November trip was a romantic getaway, but this current one is luxurious. A spa resort complete with couples massages, couples cooking classes, and monogrammed bathrobes from Etsy. He mailed her a box of gifts a few days ago for Christmas. How sweet. He purchases sexy lingerie, sent her money on Venmo, and even started planning a January trip to Las Vegas. I was furious when I learned all this, but I kept my composure. My plan. He left this morning for his work trip, but before he left I gathered all evidence of his affair. I spent 4 weeks collecting emails, credit card statements, reservations, and confirmations. I wrote him a 10-page letter, put it in an envelope, and taped it inside the lining of his suitcase. I plan on sending a group text to him and his mistress right after check-in telling them to enjoy their trip. I will also inform them that a letter is in his suitcase and that I want a divorce. I wrote a special section just for her, and I want to make sure she sees it, so I will be emailing her the letter as well. He is currently in the air. My group text goes out this evening. Stay tuned. Update. His flight landed 1.5 hours ago. He told me he would text me when he landed, and he has yet to do so. I have texted him twice. They were delivered but not read. I checked our phone records, and he texted both me and her during his layover. His email shows no Uber receipt from his final destination airport to his hotel. She must have picked him up. Something I probably should have clarified in my OP. She lives in the state he is visiting. So he flew alone. I will be sending a group text to both him and his mistress in 2 hours, as that will be 4 p.m. their time, and check-in. Date number 2. Sent pictures of our children, and he did not respond. FYI, he is in the middle of the desert. My texts are going through green, which puts a monkey wrench in my plan for a group text to him and his mistress. Need suggestions? Should I call the hotel? Connect right to their room. I worked so hard for this. It has to be tonight. Help. Date number 3. Thank you to everyone standing by and waiting. My best friend has come to my house to help me through this. It seems my texts are going through green, undelivered. But when my friend tried it as blue and delivered, he has blocked me. I guess that helps his guilt. The plan now is to call the hotel. We'll wait a few minutes after check-in to make the call. Very soon. Please stand by. Date number 4. Like most of you predicted, he does not care. He had 0 answers for my questions. That was the MOT hurtful part. But guess what? I have all the emotional support and economic support, so I'm not mad. Every question I asked, he had no response because his mistress was sitting there. I suspect when he is home alone with me, his answers will be different. I have made sure that he will not emotionally and financially fuck me because I have secured support from family and friends. He can go fuck himself. Date number 5. Called his hotel room, talked to his mistress, and finally lost my shit. He ended up calling me a few minutes later and had 0 empathy. I'm shocked, but I'm not. He said a divorce was in order and fought me on nothing. I expected him to be sad. He was not, but that's okay. I started packing up his shit. I have some great friend who helped me put everything in the garage. Good riddance? I guess so. The morning after. I wake this morning broken. My house is in shambles as I went on a rampage yesterday, ripping photos off the wall, throwing his stuff in piles on the floor, and breaking random objects in anger. Now that I've had a night's sleep, I feel that I am a bit clearer in my thinking as I analyze the conversation we had yesterday. He was different on the phone. That was not the man I know. But who was the man I've known? Because I called my mom. That was hard. While she and my dad have always been loving and supporting, it was hard to make that phone call. I felt like a failure. I know it wasn't my doing, but to admit that I made a poor choice in a spouse was difficult. Was this all because of a mistake I made 13 years ago? Honestly, it doesn't matter. I have 2 days to empty my house of his things. Who do I tell? Do I call his dad? Do I tell his mother? Best friend? Work buddies? I wish there was a manual on how to do this because I'm lost. Even with all my preparation, I'm still humiliated. Luckily, he did not take his house keys when he left. So no need to change the locks. I'll be removing his keys and sending him on his way. I don't plan on seeing him when he gets home Monday night. Doors are locked. Everything you own is in the garage. Have your people talk to my people, and I'll see you never. Preparing for the return. My friends and family have been wonderful. I am so fortunate to have such great people in my life. Yesterday, they came to help me move all of his clothing to the garage. His collectibles were all packed up and sitting here, waiting to be appraised. It took a very long time, and I was exhausted afterwards, but it was necessary. I honestly don't think he expects me to have gone to such great lengths to remove him from my life. Because I was so emotional when I confronted him, there is a chance that he thinks I will want to reconcile. Fat chance, buddy. His flight lands a little before 10 p.m. tonight. When he Ubers back home, the doors will be locked. He told me on the phone he was just getting his car and leaving. I will be holding him to that. Something I should have mentioned earlier. The house is in my name only. He had no credit when we first started looking, so everything is in my maiden name and purchased by me. Health insurance, car insurance, cell phones, utilities are all in my name. The only thing his name is on is his car. I think he realizes now that could all come back to bite him. I don't want a messy divorce. I'm willing to listen to his demands and try and meet in the middle on as many things as possible. He obviously doesn't care anymore, so I'm going to do my best to not care and treat this like a business deal. The dust has settled. It's been a few days since his return. For a man who so diligently planned a secret retreat with his mistress, he took no time to plan for his return home. He has been living in the basement since Monday. I allowed him to watch the children open gifts on Christmas, but he has since returned to the basement. We have contacted 3 mediators and have appointments next week to start the mediation process. It's obviously over. We had a conversation/argument upon his return, and he actually asked about reconciliation. I laughed. I laughed uncontrollably. Of course, he pushed blame, stating that our marriage has been over for a long time. Well, that's news to me. His actions of an affair were selfish and avoidant. He didn't want to have that hard conversation with me about counseling or divorcing, and this route was easier and a lot more fun. Let's face it, he likes the attention of 2 women loving and pining over him. Well, I'm not longer playing that game. She wins, and oh, what a prize he is. I have been amicable about talking about the terms of our separation. My biggest hang-up is her. He may continue seeing her, and I have questions about her character. What kind of woman/mother cheats with a man she knows is married and knows his children? When I confronted her on the phone last Saturday and asked her that question, she was silent. I asked if she was sorry, and it was as if the line went dead. That kind of person I do not want around my children. People who show no remorse, especially when they are in the wrong, are not kind people. I have found solace in friends and family, and thank you to everyone's recommendation of Chump Lady. I'm halfway through the book. Read through the website and find it so helpful. Thank you again to everyone. I can't believe the outpouring of support. To the trolls, sorry you think I'm an unfit and inattentive wife, but cheaters cheat because they want to. Thank you again to all. Not sure if you want a mediation update or if my story is over. Either way, I'm happy to have met you all. Where is the fault? If you listen to the books and advice always given about cheaters, it all says the same thing. It's not you. They made a choice. My SDBX insists things were bad. While I don't think we were Pam and Jim or Lucy and Ricky, I think things were good. This process has made me review who I am, who I've been, and who I want to be. Could I have made changes? Yes. Was I perfect? Absolutely not. But my decisions and actions were never detrimental to our marriage. They were more like sacrifices. And now I'm having those sacrifices thrown at me, and I'm being called neglectful. Is all this about attention? A narcissistic need to be the apple of someone's eye? Him and the AP are now blissfully in the honeymoon stage. Vacations, late-night phone calls like teenagers, present buying, etc. But what happens when the other shoe drops? What happens when she sees that he has very little patience with children? That he will walk past a sink full of dishes completely blind to them? When he doesn't pay the phone bill for 2 months because he is spending money on silly gadgets? What then? While it's not my problem, I'm sure his AP will take issue with these things. Perhaps then she will be put in the situation I've been in for a decade. Should she be the glue and hold it all together, or should she neglect responsibilities for his neediness? I've been told by him, someone who is having a relationship and spending large sums of money on someone else, that I'm at fault. Perhaps, but what about the decades of cleaning up your messes? Maybe if I would have had 2-hour conversations with him every night, things would be different. But to be honest, I'm happy I'm here. Now reflecting back, I see how underappreciated I was, how neglected I was. All these years I thought I was helping, but I was really being taken advantage of, and this affair is no different. Just a word of advice to all the mess cleaners, excuse makers, and spouse sheltering people reading this. Stop. Stop now. I've learned that all the helping is simply them learning how to manipulate you. Draw that line in the sand. Prepare for an uncomfortable situation when they start to stumble under the pressures of real life. But don't lose yourself. I lost myself years ago, and it's not a place you want to be. Mediation and the move. We had our first mediation appointment via Zoom yesterday. It was very amicable, but only because I don't want to fight and I just want this to be over. He apparently wants nothing. Not the house, not the furniture, not what he's entitled to of my pension. He just wants to be done as well. As I've been packing up things in the house to declutter, I've been offering him things. While I wish him well and hope the best, our kids deserve more than a Christmas, Easter/1 week in the summer father. No dad at basketball games, Cub Scouts, birthday parties, and school plays. Meanwhile, AP will have him and her children's biological father. I guess nothing in life is fair, and my boys will have to learn that lesson early than I had hoped. He's gone. My SDBX left yesterday morning to visit her. I told him to go. I didn't want to spend NY with him, and our COVID circle friends who we celebrate with have zero interest in seeing him either. He booked a flight 30 minutes after I told him to go. My only stipulation was that he is back for this weekend as it's my birthday, and I really need a day to myself. I've watched the kids for 3 weekends now while he went to see his mistress. I thought I at least deserved my birthday to relax. He texted me while he was boarding that he won't be home for my birthday. Well then. He claims when he booked this, he booked a return for the evening of my birthday. When he tried to change it, he was put on standby. It would cost $1,000 to change, it was a red eye, etc. The excuses kept coming. He apparently does not realize I have access to the internet as well, and flights are less than $300 with the airline he flew. I told him this and he said those flights weren't there when he booked. Lies. And he will take care of it. I just want him to be honest. If you don't want to be here for my birthday, just say it. If you don't want to spend the day with your children, just tell me. I can't force you to be a parent. I told him the flights were available and affordable. It's his choice to rebook. Ball is in your court. That's all I can do, right? Stay tuned for an update on his return this weekend.
Nye nightmare.
It was 12:40 a.m. on NY, and there was still no call from him. I was angry for no other reason than I explained to the kids that even though Daddy wasn't with us, he would call at midnight to talk to them and wish them a happy new year. I was made to be a liar. So, I text my SDBX and his excuse was, they are with their friends. I didn't want to bother them. Excuse me? Bother them? You mean you didn't want your kids to bother you, is what you are really saying. If I was across the country on NY without my kids, I would have called and done the countdown with them via FaceTime. I think most parents would, but not him. He said, if you would have told me that you told the kids I'd call, then I would have. He tried to spin this on me, that I created this mess. Why do I have to tell you that you need to call your children at midnight? This small act said a lot to me. Our children are not a priority. I guess he didn't want to ruin his perfect vacation at his new girlfriend's house with her children. He has a nice new family now. Today is my birthday, and he returns this evening. I told him in my NY text that I will speak to him on the 12th, our next mediation meeting, because I'm done. I tried to be civil for the kids, but he is not putting forth the effort for them. Liar, liar, pants on fire. The past few days have been strange. We rarely talk, a decision on both our parts. And when we do, it's about mediation, plans moving forward, or the kids. We have been civil and communicating well about those items. We are also friendly in front of the children as not to upset them. The situation is strange because we are getting along. There is no arguing. It's a shared focus to just get through mediation and divorce. That's fine by me. Last night, while I was cleaning the kitchen, I heard him on the phone in the basement. I guess he didn't realize the door was left open by one of the children. Not wanting to be a part of the drama anymore, I went to close the door. At that point, I heard him tell her how crazy I have been acting. Excuse me? We don't speak, and when we do, it's very civil. How is that crazy? Well, he proceeded to tell her about a conversation we had, and he lied about everything. While the conversation part was true, he told her I exploded. I was in a rage, I was crying, etc. None of that was true. He explained how he laughed in my face at my rage. Also not true because there was no rage. I had told him a while back before the NY debacle that I would start dating eventually, and he proceeded to tell her that I was bragging about guys I'm meeting. So far from the truth. I slammed the basement door. I'm sure he knows I heard. So I ask, why the need to lie and make me a villain? We aren't staying together. I have no reason to fight with you anymore. That's why we are paying a mediator. Why start lying to your new girlfriend that you love? How is that a good way to start a relationship? I don't know what is happening here. This is my concern. This woman and him are in love and want to start a life together. Okay, that's fine. God bless and congrats. But this woman only knows me by the stories, which I'm assuming are all lies, he has told her about me. If he does move across the country to be with her, how can I trust a woman who hates me because of misinformation to treat my children properly? I don't care if she hates me personally, I'll still sleep fine at night. But now I'm worried about sending my kids in the summer to stay with them. I want to confront him about this, but I know I can't. Maybe it's not that I can't, but I don't know how. Also, he has told no one we are separated and definitely has not told people why. How come? You initiated this, you cheated, you are happy now. So why can't you tell people? He told his father that he was bringing the kids alone to visit him because he and I weren't seeing eye to eye at the moment. What? I would assume he's afraid to face the music or is just finding comfort in the little love bubble he has created. He chooses to not face reality. He has yet to look for an apartment for when the divorce is finalized, but has booked another fight out to see her for Valentine's Day. He is refusing to face reality, and it's so frustrating. Mediation and empty promises. Yesterday was our second mediation appointment. While it was amicable, there was some obvious tension. The tension was not on my end, but more on his. Let me explain. During our first mediation, we brought up the topic that he might move out of state. At yesterday's meeting, I asked what we would do about custody if he moves to this particular state. When I mentioned the state by name, the mediator was confused. This prompted her to ask him why this state that is so far away. His answer? Well, then silence. He couldn't put into words the fact that he was leaving to be with his girlfriend. I had to finally chime in, realizing we are paying by the hour that he was moving to be with his girlfriend. I realized later that was the first time he had semi-confessed to having an affair and a girlfriend to anyone. If you love this person so much, why can't you just say it out loud? That whole situation confuses me. Anyway, when it comes to dollars and cents, I will be fine. He will also be fine. He will have enough to do what he needs, and so will I. We have agreed to a physical custody scenario that allows him weekend and dinner visits. Fine by me. I want my boys to have their father. But the situation becomes a bit more difficult when he moves. While he said yesterday he plans to stay here at least a year, I doubt that will actually happen. When he does move across the country, he wishes to return for one weekend of every month to see the boys. Again, I'm fine with this scenario, but where will he stay that weekend? He has no family. Will he just be taking the boys to a hotel? Again, I don't think he actually thought this through. This is a problem we will tackle when he does decide to move. Lastly, the mediator said it could take about 2 months to finalize everything. He and I spoke after the session to go over some out for a swim. When I took this dive into the Reddit community, I had no idea where I would land. I thought my feet would hit shallow ground, and I would be ankle-deep on the banks in an uncomfortable swimsuit all alone. But to my surprise, this deep ocean of Reddit readers have engulfed me into their warm waters, and I am surrounded by a sea of support. For this I am thankful. I am also so touched by the droves of people who have reached out for advice or offered their own experiences as lessons to be learned. To the ones seeking advice, I tell them, I am not an expert swimmer. I am merely doggy paddling through this sea of hurt and confusion. Please don't use me as a sign of strength, because the truth is, I am not strong. I am you. I am the woman who reads because they are suspicious of late-night phones call her husband takes. I am the spouse who has shouldered the entire family and is in desperate need of support. I am the woman who misses affection from her husband who is next to her in bed every night. I am you. To those people who have yet to catch their partner cheating but are suspicious, trust your gut. Cheating is a coward's choice, so be braver than them and face the truth. To the spouse who is the fixer and takes on every challenge, take a step back. When you help, even with good intention, you are actually just hurting yourself. To the spouse who has tried everything to receive physical attention from their partner, but to no avail, their affection is probably going somewhere else. These are lessons I wish I could have told myself months, if not years ago. Listen to me, or just listen to you. To the sharks in water who call me a bad mom, a crazy bitch, fake, or even just think I'm out of my mind, you will find no blood in this water. So it's best you move on and find a thread where the OP will chum the water for you. It's so very easy to read and judge. This I understand. I just hope that if this ever happens to you that you will be as brave, logical, and composed as you expect others to be. If not, you will find sharks circling you as well. So I hope you are as strong of a swimmer as you claim to be. If you are still reading, my saga/survival continues. Our final mediation papers will arrive this week. We were able to settle everything at the last meeting on January 12th, and the documents just need our signature. After that, the divorce papers need to be served and filed with the county. Then we await our court date, which will be done via Zoom. Yes, a bit anticlimactic, but it will still serve its purpose of divorcing. He has started, finally, to look for an apartment, but nothing is to his satisfaction. Maybe he is being picky, or maybe he is comfortable living in the basement. Either way, once the divorce papers are stamped, he needs to be gone. He has started making phone calls to her during the day, and I can hear him giggling downstairs. I'm happy he is happy. I really am. That isn't passive-aggressive. I know I will be happy one day too. He just got there first, and that's okay. I feel like my life is in limbo right now. I can't move forward because I'm chained to the past. I'm hoping his move will be soon. I suspect he wants out for February 1st, so he can go visit her for Valentine's Day. I hope for his sake and mine that he makes his deadline. I will update again after I receive the mediation paperwork and divorce papers are served. I'm sure that will stir up a lot of thought and emotion, so I'm certain it will be a doozy. Till then, I'll keep doggy paddling. Souvenirs. If you have been following along, then you know that there was a chance he would leave for Valentine's Day to go visit her. Well, he left this morning. He told the kids, "I'm going," as he walked out the door, leaving me to explain a few hours later that he had to leave to work when they started asking for him. I have learned that I can't have expectations. Just because I would try to be more honest with the kids doesn't mean he would. I was really proud of the fact that I didn't even engage him in the discussion/debate/argument of going. Yes, I had loudly vocalized some feelings a week ago when he told me he was going, but I have not engaged him about it since. All I asked was for his flight info so that I would know when to expect him back. He did not provide this information. Maybe he thinks I'm not entitled to it. Either way, he left and I was fine. While we had the conversation multiple times, in which he agreed that he would not visit her again till he had an apartment, he has reneged on that agreement. Shocker. He claims that he has every right to be here, which he does legally, and he can do as he pleases. He put a down payment on an apartment a few days ago, but says he doesn't know when he is moving. What? The bills he pays in the house are less than the child support he will have to pay, so I think his decision to stay longer might be a financial one. I've offered him any piece of furniture he wants in the house. I even offered to pay for one half of the cost of bunk beds for the boys. I just need him to leave. I have no idea why he is dragging his feet. But I learned through a mutual friend and former work colleague of theirs that she recently had COVID. When I say recently, I mean the Board of Health from her state said she could stop quarantining 3 days ago. But what about her kids that are in the home? Were they living there during her quarantine? Are they positive? Perhaps they are asymptomatic? Will my SDBX be bringing me and our children home a COVID souvenir?
I'm livid.
COVID insensitivity. For all those messaging me with concern and for updates, I apologize for my tardiness. It has been a heartbreaking 2 weeks. To amend for my absence, I will be posting 2 updates tonight. Let me start from the beginning. My SDBX left for his getaway on February 12th and did not return until February 15th. During his blissful vacation, my family and I suffered a great loss of one of our most beloved member to COVID. I was a mess. Everyone I love was devastated. I called my SDBX on February 13th and told him the prognosis was not good. It was loud where he was. There were children yelling. He informed me he was outside with her kids. Wow. Can't remember the last time he took our children outside, but I digress. I shouldn't have expected him to care about my bad news, but he was concerned. I guess there is still a decent bone somewhere in him. That concern would not last long, though. Upon his return, as he usually does, he schedules a COVID test. He scheduled one for 4 days after his return, but due to snow in our area, he did not go. This I understand. The weather cannot be controlled. Then he told me he rescheduled for 4 days later, and then does not go. When I questioned him, his response was, "I feel fine." I suspected since she probably got a negative COVID test shortly before his arrival, he felt safe in not getting one. Not until Monday, March 1st, did he finally get tested. A full 2 weeks later. Why? You know, my family just suffered a terrible loss to COVID. How could you be so reckless and insensitive? The insensitive question is rhetorical. I obviously know the answer already. The real monster. The day is approaching. Large boxes are being delivered to the house daily containing new furniture to be assembled. The sounds of packing tape being ripped from the spool flood the house every evening. He's moving out. I'm overjoyed. I'm so happy that I have actually started engaging him in conversation. Yes, we have to chat to figure out child support and scheduling, but now I'm so ecstatic he's leaving I even ask about his move. I feel like a kid at Christmas. While we were discussing his move, what he would be taking from the home, and the schedule for seeing the children, I asked if he planned to visit her. No, this wasn't me prying. We need to set an overnight and weekend schedule for the kids, and I was hoping to be accommodating to any trips he had planned. But then my curiosity got the best of me, but for a good reason. Our children. I asked if she plans to come here to meet the kids. He replied in the affirmative and said she may come. Well, good for you both, but I would like to meet her before she meets the children. He went silent. I could tell he was rolling thoughts around in his head, or perhaps trying to figure a way out of this situation, but he came up empty. He honestly wanted to know why I needed to meet her. Excuse me, come again? You really think I would let my children spend time Like father, like son. My SDBX was quiet, more quiet than usual, almost sulking. I don't understand his motivations anymore and what he actually cares about, so I left it alone. Not my business to care and comfort anymore, right? That evening, after the children went to bed, he sat alone at the dining room table. It was as if he was waiting for me to address him. I did not. Sulk, that's your issue, not mine. After he received no attention from me, he made the big announcement. He claims he told everyone what happened between us, including his father. Then, oddly enough, he started to cry. Full ugly tears. I thought these were tears of embarrassment and shame. He then proceeded to tell me the conversation he had with his father was the first time his dad has actually acted like a father towards him. While that statement in itself is unsettling, it is also confusing. I'm guessing his father supported him? I know if this was my son, I'd support him, but also have some strong words about how he went about this and how he should probably proceed in the future. But it looks like he received 100% support. So while I understand, I don't understand. Something was wrong here. Last week was my youngest son's birthday. I had asked my SDBX if he would like to invite his father over for cake. He texted him several times with no response. He learned through their conversation/confession last night that his father was in another state for work.
Ok, understandable.
But here's the kicker. He went away with a new girl he is dating. Why is this strange, you ask? He just asked his wife of 30 years for a divorce at the end of January. So this makes me think, is adultery a learned behavior? My FIL abandoned my SDBX when he was 9 years old, the same age as my eldest son now. Is there a pattern here? Or is all this just a crazy coincidence? I could not help myself. I messaged my MIL. She confirmed they were divorcing. I asked if there was any infidelity, and she claims to her knowledge, no, but I know better. She said that my FIL started to withdraw from her. He started picking fights for no reason and avoided interacting with her last fall. Then in January, he said he wanted a divorce so that he could find himself. A man who is in his 60s, close to retirement, needs to find himself? Sounds like a cop-out to me. But now that I've learned there is another woman, which my MIL does not know, I understand that this bloodline of men are truly selfish and unfit partners. I know all the comments will tell me to tell my MIL about the infidelity on his part, and I plan on doing so. I just need a little more information before I break the news to her. Moving trucks and spilled tea. It happened. Finally. He's gone. My basement is so empty and quiet it echoes. The day he moved, a box truck pulled up to my house and my children ran to the window to watch. I didn't know how to distract them as I was working. I was able to pull them away from the window with the promise of treats once they were at the table to do schoolwork. My youngest, though, would not budge. After 45 minutes of loading, the truck pulled away and my SDBX drove off. My youngest came away from the window looking sad. I immediately talked to him and tried to comfort him. After a few moments, he asked, "Is the truck coming back?" I was confused. I told him that we were staying here and no one else was moving. Apparently, he wasn't upset that Daddy was leaving. He just wanted the truck. I'm not sure how I should feel about this. I made appointments with a child therapist for both my kids. While they seem fine now, I'm not sure what the future holds for their mental state. I'm afraid this will be repressed and issues will arise down the road. His friends have been reaching out to me. Now that they know what happened, I'm getting text and Facebook messages asking how I am. I know in reality they are just being nosy. They may care a little, but they just want me to spill the tea. Welp, I put the kettle on. I wasn't surprised to learn that my SDBX wasn't completely honest with them. He failed to mention traveling during a pandemic to visit her. I guess that would make him look reckless, selfish, idiotic. The wives of his friends are in shock. They considered my SDBX a friend that could be trusted, a man who had it all together. Basically, they trusted my SDBX would be a good influence on their husbands. Boy, were they wrong. Concerning my MIL, I have not told her. This is because I don't have any real information. What I did tell her, though, was to do some investigating to see if he is having an affair. This would be to her benefit as her state has adultery laws. They are still legally married and living in the same house, so to my knowledge, the law applies. But she seems hesitant. I think she is just afraid to find out the truth, and then she has to look at him every day. This I understand. No person's spouse should have to experience that. I know it was gut-wrenching for me, and perhaps many of you reading can relate as well. I just don't want to be the one to tell her. Perhaps this is because I'm still upset I had to find out on my own, and my SDBX was too much of a coward to come clean. Why should a cheating spouse get the thrill of cheating and be relieved of the burden of having to confess? My wife is 30 years old and she's always worked out and been in shape, but lately I feel like it's becoming excessive. She used to regularly work out at a gym when she was in college. At some point she stopped going to the gym, I think lately just due to her schedule, and preferred to work out at home or go for runs outside. About 18 months ago, she announced she was going to get back into the habit of going to the gym. She now had a job where she's able to make more time for it. It started off normal, but slowly became more and more frequent. She signed up for classes on the weekend, both days. She started going to the gym every day. Then it became the morning before work and then again later in the evening. Every single day. If she's stressed, she goes to the gym. Experienced some sort of life crisis. She immediately heads to the gym. We have an argument, runs to the gym. She's 4 months pregnant right now. I'm kind of surprised we even had time to make a kid. I understand that it's safe for her to work out, especially since she was already in the habit of doing it before she got pregnant, but the intensity is not slowing down. If she misses one of her normal gym sessions, she becomes so irritable, like a junkie not getting her fix. It's just bizarre. Truly a case of too much of a good thing. Of course she gets upset when I voice that I feel it's becoming an unhealthy obsession and that I miss spending time with her because she's there so much. She has all of these friends and this whole circle of people there that she seems to prefer spending time with over me. Why don't we work out together at the gym? The gym is her time, she says. This isn't a case of me feeling insecure because she's in great physical shape and I'm a fat slob. I work out and am in shape. My job really requires me to stay in shape, so I can't let myself go if I want to. Please subscribe to support the channel. I genuinely feel her gym habits are unhealthy. She's over-exercising, for one. There is such a thing. But worse than that, I feel it's becoming a way for her to escape everything else in her life. She never actually fixed anything that goes wrong in her life. She just runs off to the gym to get some sort of mood boost, and then that's it. She also never gets anything else done in a practical sense, because how can she when she's at the gym so often? It's to the point where I have to do every chore, and if food is getting made, I'm going to have to do it. I don't expect her to do all of those things, but it should at least be a shared effort. People we know have even commented about it to me. They've said things about how she seems different, how she sure is at the gym a lot, and many of her friends and family barely see her anymore. Some have even suggested she's having an affair with somebody there. Please tell me that this doesn't sound normal to you. She insists this is perfectly normal. Update February 11th, 2024. I posted not very long ago about my wife's addiction to the gym. A compulsion, if you will. She spends most of her free time there. She often goes twice a day, and sometimes even 3 times if we have a fight at night and she needs to run off instead of actually talking to me. She won't let me go to her gym, and she refuses to go to mine. Her gym is her place, my gym is my place, and that's just the way it has to be according to her. I'd love to have her come along with me. I've invited her multiple times. She's about 18 weeks pregnant right now. This is our first baby. She worked out like crazy prior to the pregnancy, and she continues to just as hard now. I truly didn't think she was cheating on me. People suggested it in the last thread and I laughed. You can tell she's at the gym a lot. She's in great shape. So she's obviously going there. I felt really confident about the cheating issue, and when I posted 9 days ago, I wasn't even considering cheating. I'm embarrassed to admit that after reading a lot of the comments on my last post, I thought maybe I was being overly confident about her fidelity. She usually always has her phone on her, but she left it in the kitchen counter, and as stupid as I felt, I decided to do a quick swipe through her texts. She had a current text conversation going on with a guy. I recognized the name. The same name of a guy from the gym she mentions a lot. She's friends with a lot of people there. Went to one of their weddings last fall. I wasn't too terribly concerned until I started reading the texts. Never wanted to know what the guy's dick looked like. But I know now. She was only out of the room for literally about a minute or two, so I had to scroll fast. I was furious. I asked her what the fuck that conversation was about. She started yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her she's acting so weird and the gym obsession was really bothering me, so I just decided to look, and was ashamed that I did. But that's I thought I'd find nothing all. She said, "It's nothing. It's nothing." Didn't look like nothing to me. She sure seemed pretty interested in this nothing. I wanted to know if she's been fucking him. For how long? She kept saying no. I left the house because I was so furious, but not before I slammed her phone on the ground and shattered it. She was calling me all sorts of names for breaking her phone. She hit me on the back as hard as she could. I left. Went to my brother's house. My brother and sister-in-law were shocked, although my sister-in-law was one of the most vocal ones about my wife's gym obsession being weird and bringing it up to me constantly. I went home. She was in bed crying. She obviously couldn't call me, or anyone else for that matter. She was laying it on thick. "I don't know if you'd ever come home. Give me a break." I took her phone to get repaired tonight. She doesn't deserve it, but I still feel like an ass breaking her phone. I still don't know how deep it goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it sexting bad enough, or more? I'm convinced it was a lot more, but she refuses to hand over her phone and is now trying to act like I'm this terrible monster who is abusing her because I broke her phone. Not my proudest moment, but I honestly wanted to body slam her after she punched me. I have never, and would never actually touch her like that. Update 2. My wife admitted to an affair February 12th, 2024. Not sure if posting something in my profile will be seen by anyone, but I don't feel like making another update in a subreddit. Today my wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She laid in bed all day yesterday trying to get me to feel sorry for her, but I paid absolutely no attention to her and ended up leaving the house to go to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood to go, but I wasn't going to sit at home with her. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, "Who just leaves like that?" When something like this is happening, who is that cold and callous that they just leave to go to a party? I stayed home today to talk to her. She was full of tears. She's so sorry. According to her, she really was going to the gym twice a day because she likes going there. That's where her friends are. Makes her feel good. It's fun for her. She met this guy there, and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him. He's one of the most popular guys there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted that she flirted back, but didn't mean anything by it. She didn't reciprocate very much at first, but he gave her butterflies, and she just found herself flirting back without thinking. She said it felt like when she had a crush on somebody when she was in school when she was younger. They started texting. At first it was just friendly and nothing sexual for several months, but she'd feel giddy every time she got a message from him. She was really attracted to him, but told him that she was married and there could never actually be anything between them. According to her, he kept flirting with her anyway and said, "Sure, we won't cross the line," until they did cross the line. She said she had tried to resist it for a while, but then one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it, but also feeling that it was wrong. She must not have felt that bad because she slept with him for the first time later that night. She described it like falling in love with somebody for the first time. All she could think about was him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is this baby mine? She thinks so, but there's always a small chance it could be his. He always uses a condom so she doesn't think it's his baby, but they were sleeping together at the time she got pregnant. She loves me. She can't help that there's just this huge spark between the two of them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this. She doesn't know what she thinks we should do. The nail in the coffin is when she said, "You would really leave me if it's not your baby, would you?" She had the balls to ask me that. I told her of course I'm leaving her, and I wouldn't raise another man's child. She seemed shocked. She said, "Really? With everything we have and all our history, you wouldn't even consider it?" She can't be serious. I told her no, I would never consider it. She agreed to get a DNA test. She tearfully agreed. Like I'm supposed to feel sorry for her about it? I don't know who this woman is. She was crying the whole time, but not tears of an ashamed or sorry person. They were tears for herself and meant to try to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently so torn? Relevant comments/additional info. OP. She's ruined my life, but I just feel numb right now. I barely feel anything at the moment. It would have been bad enough for her to have an affair and cheat on me, but she couldn't have stopped when she found out she was pregnant? At least I could have walked away if it wasn't for this pregnancy. Maybe I still can, but I won't know for sure until I get some test results. She's almost positive the baby is mine. I'm stuck dealing with her forever then. My child will grow up with divorced parents. Their mom will be the gym bike. Maybe she'll even take off to live near her family and take my kid with her. Oh, but then she couldn't be near the guy who gives her butterflies and fucks her in gym changing rooms. The thrill, the excitement. How can I even blame her? She's ruined fatherhood for me, whether this is my kid or not. If by some chance this isn't my baby and I'm able to completely break free, how will I not think of this one day when I start a family? I was so fucking happy to have this baby with her. I was really excited, even though we hadn't planned for it right now. We have names picked out. I've been there for everything and now she does this to me. Not only me, but this poor kid regardless of who their father is. OP. She's saying, I'll never go back to the gym again. I'll never talk to him again. But she can't say whether she's in love with him or not. What kind of idiot does she think I am? TTI survivors. She still thinks there is hope to save your relationship? Jesus Christ. OP. Yeah, I believe she still thinks there's a chance I'll agree to raise another man's child with her. She doesn't take me seriously when I say there's no way I'd do that. She is dependent on me. She probably wouldn't leave me if I knocked somebody else up and wanted her to play mommy. I know that sounds terrible, and it's nothing I'd ever do, but I feel like she'd be mad and she'd go screw somebody else to get back at me, but she probably would be too scared to actually leave me. I don't feel the same way about leaving her. I'm sad to leave her. I don't want this to be our reality. I can't even say that I completely hate her yet, but I won't raise another man's child. If she feels so strongly about that guy, and he's so wonderful, go get together with him then and leave everyone else alone. She was practically on her knees yesterday saying, I won't go back to the gym. I won't ever contact him again. I feel like that doesn't really mesh with the fact that she doesn't even know if she's in love with him or not. She obviously still has very strong feelings for him, which are probably coming more from between her legs than her actual heart, but doesn't really matter either way to me. I think despite anything to do with him, she's dependent on me in a way. For stability, maybe. Just out of comfort, maybe. We've been together since she was 20 years old, so I'm just this familiar person, I guess. She has her gym friends out here, but other than that she has no family or friends out here. She makes pretty good money, but I make more and all of our benefits are through me. Even with her good salary, it would be difficult to survive on her own as a single mom here with all of the daily living expenses, or at least live anywhere near the level she wants to live at. Today is the day she was crying all night about how she's ruined her life. She seemed genuine, like reality is hitting her, but I didn't pay any attention to her at all. I just pretended she wasn't there. I did ask her if she'll get blood drawn for a paternity test. I asked her to please not hurt me further by keeping me in limbo about that for months. She said she doesn't want to. OP on if he got a lawyer, and if he ever met the AP. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week, and we'll see what they advise. How can she parade me around when I've never been allowed to go to her gym? I've met two of the people, a slightly older married couple. Yes, I met the AP. Last summer he called her because he was drunk at a bar and couldn't drive home, so he called her to come get him. I didn't think it was a good idea for her to go pick somebody up late at night, so I went with her. I want her out of the house, but I don't necessarily want her to fly back home to where she's from just yet. If this is my kid, and she gives birth out here, I'll be in a much better position. If she leaves and goes home to her parents, she could very well be allowed to stay there, and that would be considered the baby's place of residence. She missed a few days of work, but she has gone to work since all of this happened. She was having a meltdown this morning and I left for work. She told me how to go in late today, and when she got there everybody was making her food and tea and stuff. She obviously didn't tell them what really happened, how long the affair was happening. She claims they've been sleeping together since the summer. That's just what she claims, of course. My wife is moving in with her AP. They're in love, February 22nd, 2024. My life has been reduced to a trashy daytime talk show. The woman who was once my wife, who I considered a classy woman, has turned into complete trailer trash. Today she announced that she's moving in with her affair partner from the gym. She's pregnant, might be his kid, might be mine. She's too embarrassed to go get blood drawn for a paternity test. She spent about a week trying to get my attention, to get me to talk to her, to get me to beg her to be mine. I didn't fall for any of it. I've largely been ignoring her, and when we have to speak, I keep it very brief. We've been living together this whole time, but I'm in a different room now and functioning separate from her in all ways. So, her pouting and trying to get me to pay attention to her and give her a gold star for not going to the gym for 5 days in a row didn't work. Today, she texted me to say she is moving in with him. Somehow I still care about this person. I've already met with a lawyer though. I can care about her as a human being and possible mother of my child without being married to her. Still, it stung to hear her say she was going to be with him. I told her it wasn't a smart move to leave the house. I've even told her she should probably meet with a lawyer. She doesn't care about anything I have to say. I don't think she needs to move in with anybody. I actually feel bad for her that she can't just be on her own. I asked her if he actually knew she was pregnant and wanted to know what story she's been telling him this whole time. She said he knows and he doesn't care if it's my baby. He loves her and wants to be with her. Bizarre. You can't find anyone else? Somebody who isn't a married, pregnant woman? Why would you take that on? Doesn't make sense to me. He's scum, but he's good-looking scum who apparently is gainfully employed and owns his own home. So you can't tell me that my married, pregnant wife is your only option here. I just can't imagine being a single guy like that and wanting to put up with this baggage when I could have other options. And if this really is my baby, then what? They'll live with my wife and this weasel 50% of the time? I don't know how my life turned into this mess. And she thinks it's embarrassing to have to go get blood drawn? My wife has agreed to a paternity test February 29th, 2024. My wife moved in with her AP last weekend. She didn't take very much at all. Most of her stuff is still in our house. I still get the feeling she was just waiting for me to beg her to come home, but I didn't reach out to her at all after she left. It was a strange mixture of relief, anger, and sadness. I don't think I ate it all until last night. Just never felt hungry. Drank a little too much. But I'm fine. I'm posting this update because I've received a ton of messages from people, and honestly it's emotionally draining to respond to each one, and to have to type the same stuff out. I just don't feel like talking about her that much. So this morning she texted me to say her AP wants to get a DNA test done, so she's going to do it. Look at that. Didn't matter when I wanted one, but now that he has requested it, she suddenly thinks it's a great idea. She asked if I wanted to submit a sample because it'll be cheaper to have two dads tested as part of one package. I don't even care about the cost at this point. I just want an answer. I don't have to see or interact with them at all. I just have to make my own appointment with the lab to get my cheek swabbed. So this Saturday I'm going to do that, and we should have the results within a week. I'll take what I can get at this point because it's better than her dragging this out for another 20 weeks. So that's it.
Infine.
I'm going to work every day, trying to function. Just feel stuck in limbo.
I miss her.
Honestly, I hate that she's there with him. It makes me sick. Part of me does want to beg her to come home. It'll be even worse if I find out that it's my baby and she's there with him. Unless he drops her at that news. I won't let myself beg her. I won't play any of those games with her. Relevant comments/updates. March 8th, 2024. TTI survivors. Have you gotten the paternity test results? OP. At 11 o'clock this morning I got the news that I'm the father. I feel incredibly conflicted right now. Jacoby Brian 8. Is she asking to come back home? Or is she still planning on staying with the other guy? Regardless, this is a rough situation. I'm sorry for you, bro. OP. We haven't talked. Jacoby Brian 8. Understandable, but I think that you should try and set up a meeting with her somewhere public to discuss the pregnancy and the future in general with her. Whether or not your marriage is going to end, the kid is still going to be a big part of your lives, so it would be best to see where both of you stand in that regard. Also, I recall you saying earlier that you think that your wife would listen to what her affair partner would say to her, or something similar to that. So now that it's not his kid, I would be concerned about him pressuring her into getting an abortion. So I think you really should talk to your wife about your unborn child and whatnot. OP. We definitely need to talk, but I got the news in the middle of a work day, so I wasn't in the mood to have a full-blown conversation with her. I think I need to sort of wrap my head around the reality of it all before I say too much to her anyway. An update on my wife's affair and pregnancy. March 15th, 2024. My wife has been having an affair with a guy she met at the gym for at least nearly a year. She's around 22 weeks pregnant right now. She was somewhere around 17 weeks when I discovered she was cheating. She maintained that she was positive I was the father, but then refused to get a paternity test done to ease my mind. We recently had a paternity test done at the request of her affair partner, and it proves the baby is mine. It's been very mixed emotions for me, very up and down. Originally, I thought I just wanted to be completely done with her and not have any lifelong ties in the form of a full-blown human being we shared, but I was sort of happy or relieved when I got the results. I'd already had it in my mind that I was going to be a father for months before I found out she was cheating. Sometimes I just have moments where I can't believe this is my life, that this is the situation that my kid will be born into, and I hate her for it. She's still living with him. All of her belongings are still here in our house. I refuse to do the work of packing everything up for her. She doesn't seem concerned about taking any her things beyond the essentials. After we got the news that I'm the baby's father, she texted me to say she's glad I'm the father and that she knows I'll be a great dad. She was texting me new baby name ideas last night. She's tried calling, but I ignore the calls. I only speak with her via text. This morning she asked if she could come by and get a few things. I told her it was fine, as I've been advised by my lawyer to not prevent her entry from the home, but I told her that he'd better not be with her. So who shows up with her? The scumbag boyfriend. He walks right on into the house behind her like it's no big deal. She ran upstairs to get the stuff she wanted, and he and I were just left standing there in the living room. He told me it wasn't her fault that he was there. She told him I didn't want come, but he forced his way along. He wanted to talk to me, supposedly, to tell me he understand how I must be feeling. No, you don't know. He told me he knows I probably don't believe him, but he genuinely loves her and knew he probably wasn't the father. He accepts it and then tried to assure me he won't try to take my place with the baby and hopes we can just get along since we're both going to be in her life now. He promises that she's fine. He's looking after her. I told him that I couldn't for the life of me imagine what he wanted with a pregnant woman who is having another man's child, that I found it weird. Then I told him if he didn't get out of my house I'd punch him. I went upstairs and she was trying to find somebody things in the bathroom. I got mad, asked her why she brought him along, and told her I find it really strange that he still wants to be with her now that he knows he has nothing to do with this baby, and that I refuse to let him have anything to do with my child. She said he talked her into coming and she's sorry and never meant for any of this to happen, but she's in love with him now. He is supposedly what 30-year-old her is looking for, not me. She's setting up a nursery in his house and I can set one up at my house, and she has no intention of trying to get full custody or anything like that. She doesn't want to keep me from being involved in my child's life. How generous of her. She went back downstairs and I followed her, and he was still standing there in the living room, and I just walked up to him and punched him. He stumped back and fell into a table. She yelled, "What the fuck?" and ran over to him. I don't even care at this point. As if he's going to call the cops? He deserved it, and it wouldn't have happened had he just left like I told him to. Several hours later, she texted me to say she was sorry about today. He really meant what he said, and he's actually a good guy and he cares about her and he respects me. WTF? He respects me? He was screwing my wife in the gym locker room. I was like, you can't be serious. She said, fine. I'm trying to have a mature conversation about this. I can't help that we fell in love. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to hurt you, and I want everything to be amicable. This guy stole my wife, and he's stealing my kid too. Sure, I'm the actual father, but now they're setting up a nursery together in his house? I've tried to not feel jealous or sad. I've tried to maintain the thought that he's the trash man who picked up my garbage. Sometimes I feel that way, but the truth is that I loved her and still love her. I don't want to stay married to her on principle alone, but this is devastating to me. Another installment of the implosion, which is my marriage, April 10th, 2024. My wife is basically 26 weeks pregnant now. There actually hasn't been much drama with her and her AP. I was away for a long weekend last week, and it was nice to just get away from home for a while. Only really annoying thing that's happened is that I told her I'm being in the delivery room, not him. After everything she's done, she owes me that. It's not his baby. He has no right or reason to be there. I will not be the one waiting outside when my kid is being born. She said yes, she agreed, and she never planned to have him in there with her. I asked her if she told him that, and she said no. I told her to tell him he'll have no part in it. Well, she told him, and apparently he didn't like that, and he started trying to convince her why he should be there. Next thing I know, she's telling me that he really wants to be there, and she's the one giving birth, so she should be able to say who she wants there, and she wants him there. I suppose he'll start making name suggestions soon, and we'll try to overrule names we've had picked out for our future kids for years. We've talked a little bit, and she told me I can have our house and the dog in our divorce. I'm requesting that we sell the house and split the profit. I already that written in the paperwork. I'm not buying her out of our house, a house that I've made all the payments on anyway. I have a much better credit score than her and less debt. I compromised a lot because she liked this house. I'd rather be able to get my own place based just on what I want, and with no reminders of her. And there was already no way she was getting the dog. I already had proof that I owned him though, so she wouldn't really stand a chance of having a court award the dog to her. It's the one thing I told my lawyer I wanted above everything else, not including any custody issues surrounding my actual human child. Honestly, her AP can have her, but he will never ever have my dog. Not to mention my dog is 100 times more loyal than my wife, and some might even say better looking too. So with the idea I won't be living here in this house for much longer after the baby is born, if everything moves quickly, I decided I will still prepare a nursery here anyway in case anyone wants to try to accuse me of not being invested/prepared for fatherhood. I'm trying to look at the positives. It doesn't matter what colors she likes or what themes. I can do whatever I want. Honestly, we've been together for so long and have lived together for most of our adult lives. It's sort of nice not living with somebody, but sort of lonely too. I have friends and family, but it's hard to feel in the mood to go out or hang out with people too often. They always ask me about everything that's going on, and it's just like I'm tired of that being the topic of conversation. I got a promotion at work, which financially would have been better had it happened after the divorce, but I'll take what I can get. I feel like I'm living in this limbo right now, and a lot of what I do is always framed around, how will this affect me in the divorce? Admittedly, I spy on them on social media sometimes. Guess I'm hoping to see he's been in a motorcycle accident or something now that the weather is nicer. Hasn't happened yet, but he's starting a new company, and once that's up and running, I can always get all my friends and family to leave 1-star reviews everywhere. Have to find ways to have a little fun. Sorry that I don't respond to a lot of messages or comments. Sometimes I just take big breaks from looking at Reddit since it can be depressing AF. Editing to add something I forgot. She told her family that we've split up and that she's with this other guy now. Her sister reached out to me to say how sorry she was. Her sister is a dumbass, that sort of thing. She told me that my wife was complaining about her AP. The sex is over when he's done, and apparently he's really selfish with sex. He doesn't do extra little things for her that she's used to me doing, like clearing the snow off her car in the morning and heating it up or offering to make her food after a long day. He doesn't speak her love language, and he hangs out with his friends too much. This made me so happy to hear. She's secretly miserable, and I find that absolutely delightful. New update. I'm still alive May 19th, 2024. I'm still alive. I'm mainly posting here because several people have reached out to me and were concerned that I'd taken my own life. No, I'm not on the brink of ending my life. I think I'm doing better than I have since all of this started. Around the time of my last post, my story blew up and I was getting messages from people who saw it on TikTok and YouTube. I had to take a step back because it was a little overwhelming. I have over 100 unread messages here. I appreciate it, but it was a little uncomfortable at the time. And I got to the point where I didn't really want to talk about the situation with my wife and her AP anymore. So as of today, our baby is due in less than 10 weeks. We're in the home stretch now. I don't feel prepared at all. All of this other stuff has just been so distracting. I started working on a nursery. It's not done yet, but I have the floor finished and the walls painted. My ex-wife was impressed with the color scheme and furniture I chose. She's not legally my ex-wife yet, but I've started calling her that. It sort of makes it easier. I also packed up a bunch of her stuff. Originally, I refused to spend my time packing up her things, but eventually just said screw it and started packing it. I'm at the point where it'll just be easier to not see all of her stuff around here. Why did I leave it for so long? She came over to get some of the boxes I packed up. She came alone. Things were fine between us. I loaded the stuff into her car. We didn't argue. At one point, she started to tear up and said she fucked up. I said yes, she did, but there's no point talking about it now. She shit all over our marriage. She has her muscle-bound asshole to go home to now anyway, so who cares? She said, I know, but it's not the same. I told her nothing has been the same since she decided to fuck him the first time. Supposedly, he's going to let me be in the delivery room when my baby is born. I didn't even argue it when she said it like that, but inside I was boiling at the idea of him letting me be there for the birth of my child. She says she talked to him, and he agreed it wouldn't really be right to not allow me to be there. I'm going to take what I can get if it means being there for the birth of my child. I'm going to try to just ignore him for the time being. She was acting all sweet and laying on all of the, I really want you there. I really need you there stuff, and I know mentally I'm not in a place to be that cold to her when she starts acting that way. I'm trying to be indifferent more than anything else, but it's so hard when she's actually around and starts looking at me a certain way and making me feel bad. She invited me over to see the nursery they have set up at his house. I'm not sure I can bring myself to go into another man's house and look at the nursery set up for my kid. I did ask her if she was truly safe there though. I don't know why, it's just been bothering me. As pissed as I still am, I don't want to find out he's mistreating her, and I definitely don't want my kid to be going into an unsafe household. I haven't told her about anything her sister has told me. They probably won't last, but as of right now, there's a very good chance my newborn baby will be going home to his house. It kills me to think about. It's almost soul-destroying to think about if I dwell on it too long. She says she's fine. He genuinely loves her. He's great with kids. He accepts that she's having a baby and that this is part of the package. She insists it's not weird because she wasn't pregnant when anything started between them. I asked her why she did it. Why did she ever let anything start between them in the first place? She said, "I don't know." Then went into, "I don't want to talk about this" mode and left pretty soon after. Typical behavior from her, just run away. Overall, I'm doing okay. I'm not sitting here depressed and drinking a bottle of scotch every night anymore. I mean on occasion, but for the most part, no. I feel more used to my new normal now, and that'll all change yet again pretty soon. Please subscribe to support the channel. I've 27F been with my boyfriend, 29M, for just over 2 years, and up until a couple of weeks ago, I thought everything was going great. We've been living together for over a year. We had disagreements about minor things like every couple, me being indecisive about what restaurant to go to, him leaving his dirty clothes outside the hamper, stuff like that. But for the most part, we always got along really well. We share multiple hobbies, and have pretty much spent every day we had off together for the last 2 years. A few weeks ago, I was home while he was at work. I needed to work on a project for work that would be much easier to complete on his desktop computer rather than my little cramped laptop. So I texted him and asked if it would be okay for me to use his desktop. He said sure, and texted me the password. About 30 minutes later, I got a little bored and decided to check my Facebook. When the site came up, the email and password were already filled out, with an email address I had never seen before. I knew about other email addresses my boyfriend had, but had never seen this one. I'm not proud to admit it, but something about the email address that I had never seen after 2 years together gave me a funny feeling, and I snooped. As soon as I opened it, I realized why he had kept this email account under wraps. The inbox was full of messages from a website specifically for people looking to have affairs. I opened one up, and it allowed me to view his account information. This mysterious inbox was also filled with porn, mostly still images. Now, I like porn. I watch it myself. He knows that, and knows I have no problem with it. But this was something different. There were some pictures of porn stars, but mostly pictures of girls in swimsuits, people we know that looked like they'd been taken from Facebook, including some of my really close friends. There were pictures of girls he had taken on the bus surreptitiously looking down their shirts. There were naked pictures of me that I didn't know he had taken, pictures of me in the shower and in our bedroom. Finally, there were pictures of a female friend of his that had visited for a few days that clearly had been taken in our bathroom. The shower curtain and other items in the picture were recognizable. It was apparent that the pictures had been taken without her knowledge. At this point, I felt completely sick and betrayed. When I confronted him that night, he told me it was some kind of addictive problem, and he's been saving pictures of women for years. I confronted him about everything I had seen, especially the account on the cheating site, the naked pictures of his friend that had been taken in our bathroom, and the naked pictures of me that I hadn't consented to him taking. As it turns out, he admitted that he had a hidden camera in our bathroom for weeks. It was disguised as a flash drive, and he had left it on the counter pointed at the shower and toilet. Apparently, it was motion sensitive and would take pictures whenever someone moved in front of it. He said he didn't have any other pictures from it other than what I had seen, and just compulsively saves pictures he takes by sending them to this email address that I had found, and never looks at them again. What is this? Is it a fetish? Is it curable? He said he would get help and start going to SLA meetings, but he only went to 3 and hasn't been back. I feel violated and sick thinking about this, and welcome any advice or input from anyone who has been in a similar situation. Edit. To those saying I should report him to the police, he deleted all of the pictures and the email address the first night that I confronted him about it, and I destroyed the camera. Rage overcomes logic sometimes. I'm not planning to file any report to the police, and even if I did, there would be no evidence. However, I appreciate your comments and for reinforcing how serious this is. TLDR, my boyfriend took pictures of me with a hidden camera. Has this happened to anyone else? How, or should, I move forward with our relationship? Relevant comments. Slim Shanny, why would you want to stay? You can't trust him. Did you delete the photos of you? Was he cheating the entire relationship? Not that it would have any impact on you staying or leaving. I'd leave regardless. Just curious if he's been doing this the entire time. OP. I'm having a hard time writing this in a way that doesn't make me sound pathetic and weak, because logically I completely agree with you. It's hard to me to reconcile the person that I thought I knew for 2 years and have shared many good times and made lots of memories with the person that would do something like this, even though obviously they are one and the same. To answer your other question, he has had the email address and has been saving pictures for years, long before I met him. However, it appeared that all of the pictures up until about 6 months ago were from porn sites, and he only started saving pictures of people that he took more recently. OOP on if she will ever get the whole truth. Thanks for your comment. As for the whole truth, at first when I confronted him, he told me that he had already gotten rid of the camera. However, once he described it to me, I remembered seeing it in a closet and went and got it. He hadn't gotten rid of it after all. He already showed that he's definitely capable of lying to try to protect himself. How long since she found the Kamara? OP. 2 weeks. Spoth 3D. Thanks for the response. Given the horrible red flags, why not immediately dump him? That is what I'm curious about. I don't know you any better than what you've posted, but you're better than this, OP. OP. I know you're right. It's tough because we live together, so there's a whole life we have to tear apart from a logistical standpoint, even though it's already been torn apart in a different way. I expect that you will be appalled by this response, but the thought of coming home to this apartment without him here has been unbearably sad to me. I guess I'm not really grieving the loss of this guy, more like the loss of the relationship I thought we had before I found all this out, if that makes any sense. I need to stop making excuses and just get him out of here. Update November 2014. Link to original post. First of all, thank you to everyone who replied to my original post. Some of you came down pretty hard on me, but I needed to hear it. Some of you were incredibly kind and I needed that too. I finally broke down and told my closest friend what had happened. I used my original post to help me do it, since I was having a tough time explaining it aloud. She read the story and said many of the same things I was told in the comments on my original thread. Most of all, she supported me and validated my feelings that this was a really big deal and not something that could be swept under the rug and forgotten. It was a huge relief to tell her. You know that trite thing people say about a huge weight lifted off your shoulders? I know how that feels now. Before I made my post, I had already been talking with my then BF about how I wasn't sure if our relationship could recover after what he had done, and I had told him that I wanted him to move out to give me space. After my post, and after finally opening up to my friend, I told him that he should plan on the move and breakup being permanent. Up until then, I had been a little vague about taking a break and seeing what happens down the road. But once I faced down my emotions about what he had done, I realized that I was just trying to soften the blow, and the best thing to do was to live in reality and just move forward. As of 2 days ago, he has officially moved out. I told my family that the relationship was over, and my parents have been incredibly supportive and are even going to help me pay to keep living in my current apartment, so I can take my time finding another place to live and not have to deal with moving right now. Here's the part you guys probably won't be thrilled about. I'm not going to report him to the police. I did, however, reach out to his friend, the one who was an unknowing victim of this, via Facebook. I know, I hate Facebook as a means of communication too, but it's the only way I have to contact her. She has not replied to me, and I don't know if she will, but I gave her my contact info and asked her to call me so we could talk. I honestly can't say whether I hope she calls or not, because I absolutely dread having that conversation with her. But guys, if I'm able to get in touch, I will suck it up and tell her. I also told my ex-BF, before he left, that I thought he should tell her himself, but that I plan to. So he may have spoken to her already, though I sincerely doubt it. I wish for my ex-BF to get well, and to continue attending meetings and get into the recovery process to the point that he is able to live a productive life. It's been a sad, painful path for me to realize the fact that that life will not include me as a part of it. But despite how hard this is in this moment, I believe the ends justify the means. TLDR. It's over, he's gone. /relationships, you helped me, and I'm grateful. Relevant comments. Locust Smoke. I'm glad to see the update and that you rid yourself of him. I'm very disappointed that you didn't file a police report. He will do it again, and by not reporting him, you're allowing someone else to get hurt the same way you were. Deleted. Crime victims are not morally obligated to press charges in order to prevent future victims. The only person responsible for his deplorable behavior is her ex-boyfriend. OP. Thank you. People really latched on to the police involvement issue in this thread, and while I think it's probably the right thing for other people in similar situations, it's absolutely not the right thing for me right now. I hope other people who have been in a situation like this read your comment too, because I think it's spot on, but it's easy to forget that. My wife has been acting differently, but I can't tell if I'm just paranoid. I, 31M, have been with my wife, 30F, for 10 years. We have been married for 3 years. We met in college and were each other's first true romantic partner. I had dated in high school, but nothing ever got that far, although a high school girlfriend did cheat on me right before I thought we'd take that step. My wife was raised in pretty strict family, so she hadn't done much of any exploring until college. She drank for the first time, tried pot for the first time, and with me had sex for the first time. Because of how little exploring she did beforehand, my wife kind of gives in to peer pressure pretty easily. Her friends from college were partiers, but the friends we have made after certainly aren't, this might be relevant. After we were dating for a while, she would see her college friends hooking up with multiple partners, and she would sometimes tell me that she wished she had met me a few years later so she could have the fun they were having. She'd follow that up by reassuring me she would never risk what we have, though. It's worth noting that it has been several years since she's voiced this feeling of regret. Finally, while I think she is beautiful, she never really cared much for fashion, getting dressed up, or working out. My wife and I both work jobs that have crazy hours and, for her, sometimes require traveling. About a year ago, things started to change after she got back from a trip. I didn't realize it then because it was just little things. But now that I am thinking about it and turning all these things in my head, that trip keeps standing out. After she got back from the trip, my wife started taking her phone with her everywhere. She wouldn't leave her room without it, ever. Around this time, she started going on walks once she got home from or got done with work. We live in a big city metropolitan area, so this didn't seem too out of the ordinary. I have different work hours than she does, so I can never join her for these walks. Subscribe to support the channel. About 8 months ago, she started going to the gym about 3 times per week. This was out of the ordinary for her, since she was never big on going to the gym. Around then, she started buying tight-fitting workout outfits. I was a big fan of it at first. Who doesn't want to see their wife in that kind of outfit? But because of our conflicting work schedules, I wasn't really seeing her in the outfits anyways. Around that time, she started taking pictures of herself in the mirror in her outfits. When I playfully asked her if she was taking pictures for me, she said they were so she could store on her phone what she looked like in which outfits. It was to help her pick her clothes quickly for work, for our date nights, or for the gym. It was around then that I started getting a little nervous. Side note, there have been times in the past when my wife would ask me to unlock her computer or her phone to read something to her while she has her hands full. When she asked me to do so a few months ago, though, the password on her computer was different. She gave me the new one so I could unlock it, but it was still added to my list of concerns. About 3 months ago, we went to a housewarming party for some friends we had made after college. While they're not big on partying, we still ended up drinking quite a bit and started playing the game, Never Have I Ever. My wife and I know this game very well, so I don't think she would misunderstand the rules or not know when to drink. With that being said, she was very drunk at this point, and when she gets drunk, her inhibitions and any remnants of her conservative upbringing go out the window. During the game, one of our friends said never had she ever had a guy finish on her face. A couple friends took a swig, but it certainly wasn't enough for anyone who didn't drink to stand out. Nevertheless, my wife took a swig. Later, another friend said never had they ever had anal sex. Once again, my wife took a swig. She has always been pretty vanilla in the bedroom, so neither of these were things she had ever let me do. I tried to rationalize it as her being drunk, or maybe she just wanted another sip right when those prompts came, but it just felt too off for me to put aside. A few days afterwards, I asked her about it, and she said she didn't even remember, but she must have made a mistake if she did drink at those times. Finally, a few days after she went for her annual checkup, she got a letter in the mail from her doctor. I happened to be standing next to her when she opened it, and I thought I saw something about a STD or STI test, but I couldn't be sure. I'm not sure if women always get those during their checkups. I haven't had them, and since I have only been with my wife, I haven't felt like I needed one. Later, I noticed that she ripped up the letter and put it in the trash before taking the trash out. She sometimes does this to sensitive documents, but it still seemed concerning to me at the time. Sorry for the long post. I just wanted to get this off my chest and to see what other people thought. Should I be worried? TLDR, my wife has started acting differently. She is glued to her phone, cares about her looks and going to the gym more, and even drank to things we've never done during Never Have I Ever. Am I just being paranoid? To summarize my 31M previous post, my wife, 30F, has started acting differently since she came back from a work trip last July. Since then, she is almost never okay with leaving her phone. She cares more about her looks and goes to the gym about 3 times a week. When we met and got married, she never cared about her looks or the gym, and she goes for long walks by herself after work. These things on their own wouldn't make me suspicious, but together I think they show a pattern of her acting differently. What really made me worried was that when we played the game, Never Have I Ever, with some friends, she drank for things that we've never done in the bedroom. Then, I thought I saw her open a letter with STD or STI test results after her annual checkup. For some updates since my previous post, I found a way to raise the test results question to her without it seeming like I am suspicious. I asked if she ever needed to get one as part of her checkup, and she said she has never had to get the test before since we both lost our virginities to each other. Why would she need to? I am not 100% certain of what I saw when she opened the letter, so she could be telling the truth. As another matter, she is leaving for another work trip on Monday, and she seems pretty excited for this one. She has gone on a few trips since the one last July, and each one makes me more nervous. What stood out about this one is that as she is packing for it, and while I was doing our laundry, I noticed that she has several brand new pairs of thong underwear. She has almost never worn thongs before. She typically wears cotton panties that look like bikini bottoms. But these thongs were really skimpy, and one of them was like just a string in the back. Don't get me wrong, just like the hot workout clothes, I would love to see her in this stuff. It just doesn't feel like what she would normally wear, and I can't understand why she would wear it now. I asked her about the new underwear today, and she just brushed it off like she needed some new pairs. Still, given all the other things I mentioned, it just feels weird. To summarize, since my 31M wife, 30F, returned from a work trip last July, she has cared more about her looks than she used to, is more protective of her phone, and may have dropped hints of doing things in bed that we haven't done together. I explained in the other posts about never have I ever. Recently, right before another work trip, she bought very sexy thongs that aren't what she normally would wear. On the advice of several commenters from the last post, I hired a PI to look into her work trip. While she was away, I also went and got myself tested and arranged to take some time off from work when she came back, in case the PI found anything out and I needed to make some major life choices. I am relieved to say that nothing incriminating came up on her work trip. I know that doesn't mean something didn't happen on other trips, but it does mean that there is nothing definitive from this trip she was so excited about. Regarding my tests, I didn't test positive for anything. Also, the results weren't delivered in a letter. So to those of you who said the letter I thought I saw might not have been test results, you could be right after all. This week, once she returned from her trip, I checked out her routines going to the gym and going for long walks after work. I felt gross using my time off from work to sneak around, but without evidence from the trip, I wanted to check on things myself. I found nothing. She worked out alone at the gym and just listened to music and briefly sat in the park during her walk. Her change in behavior still feels weird to me, but I don't have any concrete evidence to confront her with, and I still want to try to give her the benefit of the doubt. When I recently asked her again about some of her behavior, she said that her turning 30 made her want to focus more on staying fit and beautiful, hence her going to the gym a lot and caring about her looks more. She didn't have much to say about being glued to her phone other than that she is just as protective as anyone else would be, coming up empty on several searches for evidence. I would like to know, does anyone have any other suggestions on where to look? We don't have the same cell phone plan, so I wouldn't be able to easily check on those logs. I also did confirm that she does not have any dating apps downloaded or incriminating messages, at least that weren't deleted, on her phone. TLDR, I didn't get anything incriminating from searches into my wife's work trip, gym routine, and walks after work. Her behavior still feels strange, but I have no concrete evidence of infidelity. Any suggestions on what to do next? Subscribe to support the channel. We have known each other for 13 years. I met her when she was working at a bar. We got to talking and I gave her my number before I left. We had our first date 3 days after that and became inseparable from that day, as in we were together all the time. We moved in together quickly. We were always totally compatible and comfortable with each other. Our morals and core values aligned, and one of the keys was neither of us ever wanted a divorce, especially if we had kids. She comes from a broken home, hates her father for cheating on her mother and treating his kids, her and the brother, poorly. When she was pregnant with our first, she was homesick, so I finished up where I was working for us to move 1,800 kilometers away to a place I had never been before. I struggled to find work in my field in the new city, and after our son was born I was just working retail, and we discussed me studying more to change careers. I got accepted into med school, which meant we had to move again. We moved to another state and I studied hard while she made friends in our new location. That first year was because she ended up with a cancer scare, and we also had a miscarriage. I stopped study that year to stay with her and our kid. We got pregnant again while I was back at study, and we had a healthy baby boy. He actually was born on the day of my final exam, which I skipped to be with my wife. I went back to study in the new year and completed that year. It was hard being away from them all the time and having to focus on study so much. My wife now says I was neglecting her and the kids. I always asked her if she was okay, if she needed me to do anything. She never said anything to me, just complained to her friends. Subscribe to support the channel. I got myocarditis from the COVID vaccine, and also when I caught COVID it fucked me up pretty badly, which ended up with me missing most of a year of study. And then when I was well enough to go back to study, I got a significant spinal injury that has taken surgery and nearly 2 years of rehab to get me anywhere near being a functional human. I still have chronic, unrelenting pain, but I'm managing. Through all that sickness and injury, my wife decided to first become a fitness instructor, to study to become a personal trainer, and has been working as a PT for 18 months at this point. She got herself fit and has been working on bodybuilding as well. I have always encouraged her to chase her dreams and told her she can do anything. Most of the men in her life have never believed in her. She has been away from home more and more over the last 6 to 9 months, always busy. I have become the primary carer for our kids because she leaves before they get up and often isn't home until after dinner time. Over Christmas, she was behaving distant and odd towards not just me but the kids as well. We were on holiday, but she was still stressing about work. On January 7th, she sat down on our bed and said she was feeling disconnected from me. We needed to spend more time together. She said she had been texting a guy from her gym for a couple of weeks and felt bad. It was nothing sexual and nothing had happened. We discussed it as a warning. She agreed to us doing counseling. She cuddled into my arms, and we went to sleep. The next day, after further questioning, she admitted it had been sexual, nothing physical. She agreed that she would need to stop communicating with the guy, but then decided she didn't want to after she had been to work and talked to a friend. The next day it came out it was more like 2 months, and that it was over, and she didn't want to do anything to help our relationship. Said she would be moving out. She went off and slept with the guy the next day when she was meant to be looking after the kids. When that guy, who was in his early 20s, my wife is in her mid-30s and I'm 42, dumped her a week or two later, she decided we should at least do some counseling. We started counseling and agreed to a trial separation. We wouldn't tell the kids. She would continue to sleep in the spare room. We agreed to no dating or bringing anyone else into the situation. Agreed to 6 months of trial and counseling for us individually and as a couple. We both started reading self-help books and exchanging the ones had read. We discussed things we found applied to us. Things were getting better. We were almost like friends again. Then she started acting weird again, to me and the kids. She had been talking to a client of hers at the gym when a guy came up and said he had been through a divorce and could give her advice and gave her his number. This blew up over Easter because she had been hiding it. Once again breaching my limited trust one had in her. Before I knew about it, she actually left the home. And the kids to go clear her head. She actually went and spent 2 hours with this guy. From what she has told me, this guy is older than me, has a 12-year-old son he only sees once a fortnight, and has been separated for 7 years. Cut a very long story short. Everything has gone back to shit, and is actually worse than it has ever been. I don't trust a word she says. She has become totally unreliable where the kids are concerned, and she used to be all about them, her number one priority. She is now intending to date this friend, and from her behavior has also started a sexual relationship with him already. I'm looking after the kids 80 to 85% of the time. She is rarely at home, and when she is, she puts in minimal effort for them and their care. I had to duck out to the shops, and when I got home she had given the little one ice cream for dinner. Her devious in general is self-centered at best, totally narcissistic at worst. She doesn't care how much pain she has already caused. She blames me for not being a safe space for her to open up. Her memory has also become totally screwed. She forgets things and has done none of the things for the kids she said she would. My parents are concerned about her as her personality has totally changed. Her family aren't really aware what has been happening because she doesn't talk to them about what is happening in detail. All she has is her gym buddies telling her to stay strong and she will get through it. My life is in a shambles. The person I believed in and trusted the most has turned her back not just on me but our kids. I keep it together as best I can, but I struggle. I'm lucky my parents are nearby so they can come and help. I also don't have a big social support nearby because all my friends are now busy doctors or live in different states. So you can check my last post about the shit that has happened. After some great advice from people on here and looking at resources, I started gray rocking in response to her, and she has hated it. She doesn't like that after all her lies and cheating that I want nothing to do with her. She dropped on me this afternoon that she has found a place and will be moving out next Saturday. She also told me that if I want her to pay for her share of the rent on our current place like she is obligated to for 4 weeks after giving notice to vacate, I will have to take her to court. I said okay, that's fine. I will do what I need to. She told me if I don't sign custody agreement with her for 50-50, she is going to take them with her anyway. I calmly informed her that as I am currently the primary carer for the kids, with about 80 to 85% of the care being directly from me, I would go and get a temporary injunction to stop her. I offered her for the current care arrangements to continue, and she can see them on weekends like she currently does. And once we do mediation, we can see what they say. She won't accept that offer. She says she wants what's best for the kids, but is also willing to take them away from their home without consideration, also refusing to let me know where her place will be. I have informed my lawyers of the latest development. See what will come of it. Subscribe to support the channel.